And your microphone looks
red.
Oh, right.
The heat coming out that candle.
Here he is. I'm just going to have to just indicate. No, got the leg.
Yeah. I'm trying to shower early. Cold. Flipping door came back from a job at a cafe I saw. Absolutely sweating back. Being in the kitchen all day. Yeah, can you imagine? She said it's 45 degrees. So she's been in a not being a so
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming here this evening. The Town Council tonight will be observing a silent minute at the appropriate time in honour of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Of course, today is the 77th anniversary of the bombing of Nagasaki. But before we do that, we have a number of people who wish to participate in public participation. Before they do, I just need to remind everyone, and anyone who's not been here before, that there is no fire alarm scheduled for this evening. There's no fire practice, so if we do hear the alarm, please go down the stairs that you came up and leave by the front door, and there's a fire assembly point that you will see out there. If you, for some reason, you cannot go down the stairs there is another set of stairs on the other side of this wall that lead out into the car park over here. And again, there's an assembly point. And hopefully we won't have to think about a third option, but whatever you do, please don't use the lift if you could. So the first person I have on public participation is Tim Whitaker. Tim, if you'd like to come, are you here?
Simon White.
Simon White, do come in and speak to the council. You're speaking about Glastonbury Football Club.
I am, again, stand before you as the council saying you have a football team in your town. You have a football club in your town. Some of you might not be aware of that. Last time I came here, not many of you were aware of that. But we've been in existence in this town for over 130 years. We're one of the oldest football clubs in the country. But not only are we a football club, but we are a business. We're a successful business in this town. And as a successful business, we provide facilities for organisations in the town that cannot do their activities anywhere else. Some of the organisations that use our facilities, we've got 4 Skittles teams. There is, as you know, or you should know, is a strong tradition in the local area. Skittles is played on a weekly basis, has been for years. You might notice the Mitre pub is closed now. The future of that, I'm not sure, but that's another Skittles alley and facility lost to the town. Glastonbury Football Club is a successful business. We have the Glastonbury Town Band that were previously rehearsed in Yeovil that use our facilities now to be based in the town. And we all know that we're all famous. We all know they play on the pyramid stage at Glastonbury. They rehearse at our football club. Glastonbury Judo, they were kicked out of St Dunstan School, could no longer carry out their work there. So we provided them with a home. We have a local dance academy that has children from the age of 6 right up through to adults that use our facilities. We have weddings, we have family parties, unfortunately, we have wakes as well. The local community use our facilities. So forget the football bit, which you really shouldn't, but actually, if you do for this minute, we are a facility in the town that is at risk. And I have to say, it's a disgrace, actually, we never receive a single penny from anything that's ever on offer in Glastonbury. The Section 106 money that we never see anything of, we were part of the town deal, but now that's not going to go ahead for the football club. There's £2 million being spent on the Tour Leisure Centre, which we were part of once. Tell me where the £2 million is being spent. They're refurbishing an existing building. They're leaving on a roof that's over 60 years old. It's riddled with asbestos. They're not removing any of that. There's not one single ecological measure being introduced in that refurb, which is an absolute disgrace. But there's £2 million being spent. We've been part of that all the way along, as people around this table know, because we've been working with them closely. There's a sports hall built up there. It's not a full-size sports hall. And if that's where the money's going, tell me where the need is, because there's a sports hall already in the town that failed to support itself. There's a new organisation gone into that facility now to try to make it work. So why are we building a new one and using this town's fund to do it? £500,000 worth of money came into this town, I don't know when it was, a year ago or 18 months ago. No one cared even to actually consult Glastonbury Football Club, but a number of other organisations in the town received money. There's £23 million now coming to this town, and Glastonbury Football Club, and yet again, is not receiving any money. We never get anything, and yet we exist. And not only do we exist, we're a bloody good asset to this town. And if we go, which is a distinct possibility, because we all know the cost of living and everything else is going to affect our trade, and we would probably no longer be able to subsidise like we do, because we subsidise the organisations that use our facilities, because we know we get money back in return. Because it gives people that come into our football club a feel good about the football club. So when they have a family party or they have a wedding, they want to use our facility. We've got bookings, but we don't make a massive amount of money out of that, because we like to be part of the community. In a facility in a town, unlike Fusions, for example, that doesn't cost you a bloody fortune to hire. This town should be supporting us. It should be getting behind businesses that are actually a success, that do provide work. We employ people on a full-time basis. We've got a full-time bar manager. We employ bar staff. So we're providing employment as well. I want to say on behalf of the football club, that we want our local councillor in our ward to be assigned to us, and we want to work with the council to make sure that any money that becomes available to us we're included. We know we haven't got a divine right to have any, but when there's over £23.5 million been coming into this town and we don't get a penny of it, I think it's an absolute disgrace. And when you see what the money is being spent on, there's no need. When we were part of the town deal, we had a needs analysis. Mendip Council, yet again, thousands of pounds on a consultant to get in to do a needs analysis, whether or not there was any need for another pitch, another green facility in the town. They said, yes, there was. Resoundingly, yes, there was. So Mendip have done what with that? They've ignored that. The town deal has ignored that. And yet they're building a sports hall, which there is no need analysis. There's no needs analysis. I think they're spending a fortune on it, because they're certainly not spending £2 million on refurbing the building up there. I can't believe in Glastonbury, town of all towns, is going to let a £2 million project, which is basically a refurbishment of an existing building, that leaves in lots of asbestos, doesn't replace an asbestos roof that's 60 years old, and still does not have one green element about it. There's no PV panels, there's no air source heat pumps, there's an existing gas system that they're going to cronk on for another I don't know how many years, polluting the atmosphere, when we shouldn't be allowing that in this town. Why are we allowing that to happen? Either you haven't got a say on the town, or the town deal, which I don't know if you have a great deal of say on it or what, but you should at least be acknowledging this. And it's pity that it's taken someone like me to actually bring this out into the open. So I know there's two people on it that are part of the town deal. But yet again, it's left to us to bring this to your attention. We know there's money coming into the town, we know that, and we know money comes in the town. There must be some Section 106 money that's available. There must be, because we've had lots of building work done here in the past, and I know how Section 106 money works. We want to be part of that conversation. And we want our local councillor, whose ward we sit in, to be assigned to us to make sure that happens from now on. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Simon. I know just how passionate you are about the football club. We don't normally respond, but I know that the district councillor wishes to. So, Steve.
Hi, Simon, Tim. Well, as you know, I attended lots of meetings with you guys with the Towns Deal Fund. And Simon, you know as well as I do the reasons why the football club didn't get that money. And as hard as it is, I didn't like the way that negotiation went, but there was several clubs that lost out on that. And as you say, the eventual decision was to put money into the clubhouse, which is something that this town council has no say on. As you know, that's a Mendip District Council decision. So this council here, although I'm a ward councillor for Mendip, I've got no say on that. So, you know, I appreciate your passion, but just to understand, we cannot do anything about that. I can certainly go and see Jane Sharp, who you know very well, and I'll put your arguments to her, but you know the way those meetings went. With regard to the other 23 million, you also know how that's gone. It was all divvied up to the certain clusters. The sports cluster, as it was, had 5.9 or something like that, I think, or whatever it was, 2.9, but we had 2.9 and the whole project came to 6 million. So it was obvious that that project wasn't going to get the money it needed. So that was why it was all went the way it was. Okay, and with regard to the other 23 million, I mean, that's gone to other projects. And with regard to the 500,000 that came, that was for high street enhancement. It couldn't be divided up amongst businesses or other organisations. With regard to 106 money, that has to be used to mitigate circumstances produced by a development. So say you've got the new development on the bypass, 106 could go towards road enhancement or playground for the kids, something like that. You can't just take 106 money because you feel you deserve it. It's got to be, you know, the development has got to affect you in some way that mitigates the circumstance you're put under. So while I would certainly look into 106 money, I don't think you can hold your breath and say we're going to get any. I mean, these are harsh realities. I don't like to tell you that, you know, but and also, well, let me just finish. The third
£50,000 spent on tennis courts down on foot. Over £50,000 spent on tennis courts.
What, down Benedict Street?
Yes.
Well, that was money that was going to waste. That was 106 money that was going. It was disappearing. Had to be used for. You weren't eligible, Simon. You weren't eligible. That has to be used for youth activities.
That's not youth activities down there. Adults use that sort of youth.
And it was money that was going to be taken back by the developer if it was not used quickly. And the mayor, in his wisdom, found a project that we could use that for, and it's been very successful. That it's those tennis courts and that multi-use has been brought back to use.
It was a town clerk that made a use for that money.
It was a town clerk and the mayor.
I was the person who got that money, and I talked to the Section 106 officer, and that was the project that it was eligible for and could be used for, and we had to come up with that project within weeks because the money was going back to the developer. It'd been sat at Mendip for 10 years.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
For 10 years.
So
You don't think we have young people down at our football club then?
No, it's not. That's not what we're saying at all, Simon. But what we'll do, I think we need to move on because we're in the public participation part of this. But Simon, I've introduced you to Councillor White, who is now on the town deal, and I would also like to support you in this, as you know, and we can get something moving to help the football club. It is a treasured thing of the town. Well, it may be. That's something to explore. I also put forward your request for councillor representative on an outside body for the football club. I think that's a really good idea, and that keeps, of course, the council close to the football club as well. So thank you. But I'm really sorry, but we do have to move on to the next item. Thank you very much, Simon. So the next person to speak is Susanna Clements on local buses.
You got it. Okay, while we're getting the PowerPoint together, the PowerPoint is it's going to be like one of those calendars in old films which goes flip, 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 because I'm just going to rattle through this. Buses are well used, they're not well enough used, and they're absolutely vital. And there's going to be massive funding cuts in October because the money that's keeping them going through COVID has been slashed. So there's going to be bus service cuts. And the only way we can stop bus services being lost indefinitely is by really using them a lot. because they're going to be counting the number of people on each service in September. So, yeah, we could just move, that just shows there's, yeah, lots of people using it. We just move it on a bit. Somerset Bus Partnership have been, well, they contacted the town council and I saw the stuff about it. So they've been really launching this big campaign. It's actually a nationwide campaign through September. They're calling it here Somerset Catch the Bus campaign. And we really need the town council completely on board with this. The other thing we could do obviously is make a big noise about it, and that might fend off some cuts. But really, people need to be on the buses, so we need to get the words out there. Thank you. So this is some of the stuff that's been produced by actually the national campaign, and we need to get these messages out. These are could be published on social media, printed on flyers and things like that. They've got this great campaign material all ready for us to use. And so we need to use this ourselves to get more people on the buses. And I'd really like to appeal for help from the town council to get flyers printed, to have meeting space for people to meet, to organise, for councillors to appear on buses. And these are really important, these messages about public health, also about the climate and transport. We're going to have to stop using our cars so much. The only way people can give up cars is if there's a reliable alternative. And buses are a really big part of that. And the Somerset Bus Partnership has this fantastic manifesto which includes all sorts of really achievable things, like buses you could call. So, you can actually catch a bus from where you need to catch it at the time you need it and things like that, which are actually working in other parts of the country. So there's lots of good things they've got. I can't go through it all. I think you've seen quite a lot of it. What I'm asking for is, in other places, the town and parish councils are completely on board with this, and they're doing things like printing timetables, because people aren't going to catch the buses if they don't know where they go from, what time they go, which buses are available. We need maps. Now, the bus services, I think I've heard that one map is being produced by First Bus. I don't know whether it includes the other operators, because they're all fragmented into different companies and organisations. Really, it needs to be, I'm sorry to ask this, and I know it's not fair, but it has to be the town council, as town and parish council, other town and parish councils are doing. So we really need bus timetables printed by the council to be put up on all the bus stops, and we need a map that shows which buses are coming through Glastonbury, so people are encouraged to use them. That's like the first step, and then we can really push. We can actually grow it from there, because obviously, as I said, we're going to have to give up our cars. I've been using the bus to go up to Bristol about the last few days. It's absolutely essential, because they always stop at 5 o'clock. So this is some of the stuff they've done, and it's great. It's really cross-party. I know James Heapy's appeared on the radio, and he is being a grassroots campaigner. And this last slide here is the meeting we are organising here at the Georgian Pilgrim on the 24th at 6 o'clock. Calling the local organisation Glastonbury on the bus, so we can have the acronym GOB, because it feels a bit militant, But anybody's welcome. Come along, be there. If we can get some leaflets printed in time, we can hand them out to people so that people can pass them on. We also need a social media campaign. And as I said, what we really need is you lot on the buses, taking selfies and posting them, sending them to the newspapers. You've got better contacts than I have. So get them out to the newspapers, show off, boast about how you use public transport, because that's what we need. So the other thing, thank you for putting that out, reminds me, the Somerset Bus Partnership are bringing a stall to the market on Tuesday the 6th of September. I don't know how they go about arranging for permission, but I'm just letting you know that's what they want to do. So I know there are councillors here who have the contacts for the Somerset Bus Partnership, so if you can liaise with them. So that's it. That's my pitch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
We're looking at trouble.
Thank you very much, Susanna. Our next speaker is Helen Roper, Mendip Credit Union.
Credit unions are financial cooperatives and controlled by their members. Each member has one vote, and volunteer directors like myself are elected by the membership from the membership. But as well as being a financial cooperative, credit unions are what are known as registered societies and are therefore classed as companies. And like all companies, we're required to have a registered office to which posts may be sent. And it has to be a physical building. It can't be a PO box. Mendip Community Credit Union is not only controlled by volunteer directors, but entirely run by volunteers. We believe we are one of the largest volunteer-only credit unions in the country, if not possibly the largest. Because we are all volunteers, we took the decision that our registered office should not be at the home of any member. Our current registered office is Unit 7, Abbey Mews Arcade, which you may know much better as the Op Shop. Sadly, the Op Shop is giving up its lease at the end of this month, and we need to find a new office address. Glastonbury Town Council is actually a corporate member, and many of you sat around the table are individual members of the credit union. So we're hoping that you might consider allowing us to move our registered office to St Dunstan's House and for us to collect our posts from the Town Council reception desk. Our members use a free post address for the return of documents. This is anonymous. It is a PO address, and it goes to a member who lives in this town. Therefore, the sort of post that might come to the registered office is only official correspondence. And one item a week is a busy week. We serve the whole of Mendip, there's a clue in our name, but the reason why we're asking Glastonbury Town Council is because 3 of the directors either live or work in Glastonbury, and it would be convenient for them to be able to pop in and collect the posts, because it is the directors that would be dealing with official correspondence. We would ask that you consider letting us have the registered office, and this is where I get my begging bowl out, at no or minimal cost, because as we are a cooperative, any surplus that we generate is returned to our members as a dividend, and we work hard to keep the costs as low as possible. So I'm hoping you will give that your attention this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've been a long-time member of the credit union. It does a tremendous job and helps so many people. I've just wondered whether or not the council would be quorate to be able to make a decision. And so I just like to ask councillors who are members of the credit union to raise your hands.
Member of the credit union.
So there's 4 of us, so we would be quorate. So we will be able to put that motion, if a councillor feels moved to do so, to put that motion to the council, then we will be able to vote on that. Thank you. So we now have Claire Crumpton, Fishers Hill Rec.
Area of land given to Glastonbury Town Council in perpetuity for the benefit of the people of the town. Until a year ago, it was an area of grass with a few trees and a low chain link boundary fence. People didn't seem to notice it, nor realised that it was for recreation, and most of the young went down the hill to the play park. Dog walkers used it, but there was no bin for dog waste. 3 years ago, Glastonbury in Bloom Chair, Alderman Ian Tucker, approached me and invited me to create and implement a planting plan for the area to increase biodiversity and promote pollination. There were no restrictions and no formal budget was agreed, though Glastonbury in Bloom very kindly granted me £500 a year ago. At the time, I was not aware of the status of the land, nor any restrictions regarding its use or purpose. My draft plan for the verges grew to include 4 waves of borders to create interest and grow a mix of ground cover, edibles and pollinators. The wire perimeter fence will soon be disguised by hedging, including drought-resistant natives, evergreens and roses. The plan also includes a designated nature corner to encourage bats, birds and insects and provide interest and education for children. Food plants feature throughout. Red and golden raspberries, black currants, red currants, strawberries, loganberries, herbs, squash and beans. As an aside, food security for the town of Glastonbury is running at less than 8%. The vast majority of all these plants have been donated by individuals from the community. I propose a picnic area in the shade of trees for families to enjoy and a small pitch for kicking a ball around safely. All the plants are drought resistant once established. They are pollinators and they give ground cover. The first wave planting, as agreed with Glastonbury in Bloom last October, is now visible, though not complete. My progress was consistently reported back to Glastonbury in Bloom in detail, weekly, with photos and texts explaining my actions. The project has gathered momentum and attracted attention from neighbours, dog walkers, and passers-by, and some who have joined in, contributing their time, plant donations, and recently, water. The team of volunteers meet every Friday morning. The group varies week by week, but we have about 5 reliable regulars and 10 more who come as and when they can. Some have found their mental health and their well-being has improved through working in nature, being part of something and part of a positive action against climate change. And since the practical work, since the sod was broken a year ago, we've achieved a lot more than people expected. We've planted over 900 plants. We have engaged 60 volunteers and contributors, and that's a minimum. And I have also been given positive expert support and advice from Bo Walsh, Mendip's tree officer, and Tom Ronan, who holds the climate resilience portfolio for Mendip. And I was very happy to start this project. I'm very happy working with the former chair of Influence, my mentor, Chris Pryor. She dealt with the administration for me and things ran smoothly and without any problems. However, earlier this year, I was informed my project was being transferred from Glastonbury in Bloom to property and assets, and I had no consultation. And that is your prerogative as a council. Had this decision been taken democratically by the full council, I might have been transferred to the Climate and Emergency Ecological Committee and things might have been different. However, my concern is that in the process of being transferred to Property and Assets, as I am not a councillor, I have no right to speak. And I have lost my voice. This has led to misunderstandings on both sides, and I accept that I have allowed my passion for this project to overtake some of the guidelines. I am exhausted with manually watering 20 to 26 hours a week in the evening to try and keep these plants alive. It's actually over 30 by the time I've had my volunteers day. So I am exhausted. I need a mentor who I can regularly contact and who can represent the project at Property and Assets. And I have asked Councillor Oakden to do this for me, and she has agreed, but I have no idea how or if this can be ratified. I also need the weekly watering from the council that's in place to be continued until the end of September, depending on hosepipe bans, and to start again at the end of March. It was agreed clearly with both the Mayor and the Town Clerk present in Blue meetings months ago that in order to establish root systems, plants needed to be watered regularly in the first year, and watering unfortunately didn't start until July. I would like to apologise for not returning the contract issued to me at the Property and Assets meeting on the 13th of July. I am exhausted, and I would crave your patience until the weather breaks and cools down and I can go and have a well-deserved rest. I'm a conscientious person, as most of you know, and I'm asking your worship that I be recorded as being present at this meeting, and at the same time I ask to be excused because I've got 2.5 hours watering to go to.
Thank you very much. Of course, we will have you as present, and you, of course, excused. Very vital work that you're doing. Thank you for reporting this to us. So next we have Joe Joseph, who's speaking about coordinating tour events response. Hello, Joe.
Your Worship, Town Councillors, thank you for giving me 3 minutes of your time. I will try and do this in that time without hesitation, repetition or deviation. Fingers on buzzers now. I'm going to speak on behalf of the tour community and tour farmers groups to seek your support for agenda item 17, which, as the Mayor said, is to consider taking on a coordination role across the National Trust, Police, Somerset County Council, NSL Parking Enforcement and Mendip District Council for annual events at the tour. Glastonbury has a wonderfully full calendar of events each year. Got pilgrimages, conferences, road races, zombie walks, beacon lighting ceremonies, and of course the Frost Fair, to name but a few. These are well organised, well coordinated, and they enhance the life of our community and visitors. And the Town Council, I think, can be justifiably proud of the reputational benefit to Glastonbury. But in 2021, the impact of uncoordinated events on and around the tour came to a head. with an ambulance unable to reach a sick child, a fire engine unable to get to a fire lit in the road next to camper vans with colour gas cylinders in, a police firearms unit unable to get to scene, an anaesthetic nurse unable to get from her house to hospital to respond to a call-out, a licensed trader threatened and unable to trade, road signs and interpretation boards vandalised and obscenities painted onto roadways. Not to mention the complete obstruction of lanes, making it impossible for farmers to check the welfare of livestock. I could go on, but I won't. Well, I might. But fortunately, this is no longer where we are. Thanks to the Police Inspector Julie Denny, held a Zoom meeting with all the agencies involved, and all agreed that a coordinated response was needed for solstices, equinoxes, Beltane, etc. But none of the agencies thought they should be the one to coordinate. And to a degree, their position was justifiable, given their roles and responsibilities. In exasperation, we formed the Tor Farmers and Tor Community Group and took on that coordination role. Since then, we've met regularly with the police, Somerset County Council and National Trust reps, thank you, and the police are here, and liaised with them through them with MDC, Mendip District Council, and NSL, the parking enforcement people. The Bund and the Clearway in Stonedown Lane have clearly helped, as has the restoration of Glastonbury Festival this year. But the simple coordination of those who've got boots on the ground during these events has been remarkably successful. There are still some raggedy edges, of course, but thanks to Sergeant Nancy, Nick and his team, to Andy Doyle and the SCC crew, to Vicky and Joel from the National Trust, we've made huge strides forward. So why are we now asking the Town Council to take on the coordinating role? Well, firstly, there is a real opportunity to add to the positive reputation of the town by having good events at the Tor. And the Town Council, I think, can also get more involved in supporting the quality of provision. For example, Park and Ride from Herbie's Field. At Avebury and Stonehenge, this council coordinating function has made massive improvements at peak visitor times. And the police have numerous other examples of such good practice from town and parish councils. So there are plenty of precedents. As a community group, we're happy to continue to be involved and support Glastonbury Town Council in this. But we strongly feel that the coordination can be enhanced further through the influence and soft power of you on the council. It needn't be too onerous a task. 2 meetings a year should suffice. It'll have to involve tea and donuts if the police are involved. So finally, I would like to thank Councillor Lokabandu, Connor, the Town Clerk, and you, Mr Mayor, for your support in bringing this to Council, and to thank all of our councillors in breathless anticipation of your support too.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Councillors, you will be aware that it is item 17, that we will be discussing that. Finally, National Trust has been mentioned and Joel Bunting is here. Joel, you wish to speak about the National Trust Blossom Project. Nice to see you.
Yes, well, thank you very much for having me to speak this evening. It's nothing too onerous. It's fairly short and simple. So, for those of you who might know or not know, the National Trust has some quite bold aims when it comes to tree planting and nature recovery. Part of the National Trust strategy is something called the Blossom Project, which is to restore and plant anew orchards in particular, which are a priority habitat which has dramatically reduced over the past hundreds of years, and hedgerows and basically anything blossoming. So it's the early nectar source for our insect species, which then is the base of the pyramid for so much more. We've actually been successful for an application for some of the Blossom Fund money at Glastonbury Tor, and we would like to plant around 100 blossom trees amongst other smaller projects relating to helping protect nature at Glastonbury Tour. Part of the planting project I would like to initiate would be something which at the moment is dubbed in my head the Unity Planting Project.
Right.
So I'm sure most of you will be aware of the location of Fairfield, but I would quite like to engage with the community in designing a planting plan. And I'm quite open to ideas, but at the moment I've got sort of in my head perhaps we could mimic your Unity symbol and plant our new blossom trees in a certain way that would look quite nice from above as you climb up towards the top of the tour. There are caveats and catches. I haven't yet done a geophysical survey. Obviously, with the historic interest of this field, we would need to make sure that we weren't going to disturb any archaeological interest. However, I'm fairly confident that that shouldn't be an issue. I would also like to ask your advice with approaching who might be willing or interested in helping with the design or assisting with the planting itself and getting involved, or connections to local groups and schools. We already have 4 fantastic orchards at the tour, and I'd like to try and link up local groups with helping us look after them to give people a bit of a sense of ownership and just sort of really build on our relationship with the local community to help people feel like they're getting as much as out of Glastonbury as we'd like them to. The tour, sorry, not just Glastonbury. But yeah, but that's it. Thank you very much for taking the time to.
Thank you, Joel. Before you sit down, I think that this sounds ideal for the In Bloom committee to champion for you. And I'm sure that there are a number of councillors who will have ideas, but the In Bloom has good links with the school and various other groups that are interested in growing in the town. So would you be happy for Connor to contact you and let you know about that group's
Please,
meeting?
thank you very much. Yeah, that'd be good.
Thank you.
There's one, as it's a national trust, there's always a catch. So all of the money which I've been given has to be spent by March next year. So as I'm sure you appreciate, that's one tree planting window of a winter.
Yes.
So our designs and our plans have to be quite dynamic. So yeah, it'd be good to get the ball rolling.
Thank you. Could I just ask councillors who'd be interested in supporting Joel to raise their hands, please, and then Connor can take your names. If you shout the name out, they'll put their hand down, Connor.
So I've got councillors Smythe, White, Rowley Dougal, Much, Cottle, Henderson, Manning, Oakden, and Lockland.
Thank you very much. Looks like you've got a lot of support there. Thank you, Joel. And thank you for all you did during the Jubilee as well. It was really great. Hear, hear. So that brings us to the end of public participation. I'd now like...
John, somebody...
Your Worship, my colleague Alison was booked in this evening for a public participation opportunity. It's a short 3 minutes.
Is there one more booked in?
I've got someone on the waiting list. I didn't have someone booked in, Your Worship. I had Alison Kazmaki on the waiting list. But sorry, I do apologise.
Well, if you could keep it very brief, we'd be happy to hear from you, but we should be moving into the meeting soon.
I'll be very brief.
Thank you.
I just want to say that there's a demand for additional local facilities, in particular practical and usable basketball court. The present one that is at Abbey Park doesn't meet national specifications, and I would like to see a provision of a court or practice area, as there's a growing demand for this particular sport in this area. I do have a young son, and I know all of his friends and a lot of people that require this. And it would also be very beneficial during the school holidays for the children.
it wouldn't take much to upgrade the existing one into line with the national international basketball specifications. I would ask this council to make inroads to providing a suitable basketball court in Glastonbury, and I'd like to request a reply in the near future, as I'm expecting a response from the council to provide these facilities or to explain why they cannot. And if I could have a copy of the meetings as well. And just quickly, I just wanted to say that I was speaking to one of the boys today at the basketball court, well, if you can call it that, in the Abbey Park, and he said that there was an application put in about 2.5 years ago. So they started work down at Benedict Street and they've done all the resurfacing, but the only thing they didn't put in was the basketball facilities, the nets and the basketball. So it's already there, sort of ready to go.
Yes.
But there's quite a following, and I can get a petition, I can get lots of names to back up everything I'm saying, because I think it's really important for our children to have these facilities.
Yes, you're quite right, and the community was consulted before we did the renovations down at the tennis courts, and what came out clearly was basketball and netball court in the one that's not used for tennis. I am still waiting for the hoops to go in. I'm not sure why they never did, but that was always part and parcel of the project. So I shall be very happy. Have you left your contact details with Connie?
I've just got a little brief here for if the clerk could just distribute these to the town council.
Great, thank you.
And all my contact details are on there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But yes, please. What I do is I hope that this council will finish off that course, that court for netball and basketball. I know there are a lot of young people who are still waiting, and they keep reminding me of it because we did quite a big consultation with the youth at the time.
Yeah, I think that's about 2.5, 3 years ago now.
It was, unfortunately, COVID was around at the same time, but that shouldn't be an excuse for not having the nets there.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we already have, yes, quite right. We already have the Unity candle lit. Earlier on at 6 o'clock, we held a short ceremony at the Peace Pole in recognition of the 77th anniversary of the dreadful bombing of Nagasaki. And I have a very short piece that has been sent to me by the Mayor of Nagasaki. Glastonbury's mayors are Mayors for Peace. It's an international movement founded by the Mayor of Hiroshima, and the Mayor of Nagasaki is obviously a member of that movement too. He spoke in Nagasaki earlier today and said that in January of this year, the leaders of the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and China released a joint statement affirming a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. However, the very next month, Russia invaded Ukraine. Threats of using nuclear weapons have been made, sending shivers throughout the globe. This has shown the world that the use of nuclear weapons is not a groundless fear, but a tangible and present crisis. It has made us confront the reality that as long as there are nuclear weapons in the world, humankind constantly faces the risk that nuclear weapons might be used due to mistaken human judgments, mechanical malfunctions, or in acts of terrorism. So I read that statement out at the Peace Pole, and of course the Peace Pole says, "May peace prevail on earth." So with that in mind, I would like you to join me in standing and observing the silent minute for all those who died in the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and all those who continue to suffer as a result of those dreadful acts. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. As you sit, you may wish to contemplate that the flame that is now in the unity candle is a mixture of several flames. On the table here, to my right, your left, is the Bridget flame, which came from Ireland and is kept at the White Spring. And on your right is the Sovereign Flame of Avalon, which was used to light the beacon on the tour for Her Majesty's beacon lighting, as it were. And that was the first beacon to be lit in the country. And we are quite pleased that we were on immediately after Her Majesty lit the Tree of Trees, if you saw that on the television. And finally, the third flame, which is so precious it's had to go back, is the Hiroshima Peace Flame, which is kept in Glastonbury, which was lit from the flames of Hiroshima as it burned immediately after the dropping of the nuclear weapon. And that flame is in many places around the world, and it's here as well to remind us that this should never happen again. May peace prevail. And you will see also we have the Pax Cultura symbol here, which is a symbol of peace that has been used throughout the year as we have honoured the Platinum Jubilee. Pax Cultura, of course, if there's peace in culture, then there's peace in the world, Pax Mundi. So thank you very much for joining me with that. So we now move into the meeting proper. Do we have any apologies?
Your Worship, I've received apologies from Councillor Don Francesco and Aldermen Tucker and Keary.
Thank you very much. Do we have declarations of interest?
Your Worship, I know the significance of these candles, but it's very, very warm here and these are giving out an awful lot of heat. Could they be placed somewhere else, I think?
Yes, I'm sure they could.
I know we have a heating problem, but it's quite inappropriate at this time, I think.
I'm very happy to ask one of our mace bearers, Terry, would you be happy to move the two flames from either side of the table, now that we've observed the silent minute, over to the window, perhaps over here, so that they're out of the way of Councillor Napper and Councillor Much?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Well, Terry, I know you're hot stuff, but you don't need to be hotter.
I used to be.
Declarations of interest, councillors, particularly pertaining to tonight's meeting. I notice that item 18 is the credit union, and we have shown ourselves. Oh, we leave that one there, Councillor Much. Councillor Lokobandu.
I own a small piece of land up by the Tor, which may be relevant to item 17.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillors, if we go through the agenda and you realise that you do have an interest, please raise your hand as a point of order and let the clerk know. We now move to approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of July. I draw councillors' attention to page 18.
May I, Your Worship? Since the copy circulated to members, I've made a couple of small amendments from mistakes that I noticed. So on page 18, I've corrected Councillor Lokobandu's name because I spelled it incorrectly by accident. I do apologise. And page 24, I'm skipping ahead slightly, on item number 74, I corrected Rainbow Price flag, although I'm sure you would have loved that to be associated with you, Councillor Price. I changed that to Rainbow Pride flag, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor.
Yes, Your Worship. I think I was actually present at the meeting, and I don't appear to be marked as present.
Oh, I do apologise, Councillor Cotter.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cotter. Anything more on page 18, page 19? Page 20. Page 21. 22. Twenty-three.
There's a spelling mistake on 23, consider, item 73.
Thank you, Councillor. I do remind councillors to stand when speaking.
Oh, sorry.
24. And it was that long 25. Councillors, do I have your agreement to sign these as a true record of the meeting with the amendments mentioned tonight? I will suffice.
Aye.
Thank you. While I do so, I would like to ask the clerk to speak to item 4 to receive a summary of outstanding actions.
Thank you, Your Worship. So a summary of outstanding actions. The asset of community value application for the land that the football club sits on is on hold at the request of the football club. When I met with the chairman, Tim, who was here previously, he asked me not to submit that just yet, but said he'd get back in contact if he wished for the town council to do that. The Resilience Committee press release is in process now that they have a terms of reference and have met twice. The World Heritage Committee press release will happen too once it has met. It will need to be a future agenda item for September to agree the membership and to set the date of the next meeting. So that's on the agenda for September.
Thank you.
The police were written to regards the queries from the last report, and I received a reply from the sergeant, which either the PCSO present may speak to, or I can circulate. I don't believe I've printed it off. I could not find any records about fair trade. However, I'm going to catch up with yourself, Councillor McDougall, to enact anything that we need to do to ensure that we retain our fair trade status. I couldn't find any records either on the computer or in a file in the office. They may be somewhere, but I'm sure they will be. Craig McFarlane's been offered the position of Glastonbury Town Council's bagpiper and has given the date for the first event. We're going to work with high street businesses to have all of their brackets replaced with the new multi-purpose ones that the Town Council has had produced. The press list has been delegated for updating. A police liaison meeting will be arranged with the sergeant tomorrow, and I will forward round the date to members who sit on the police liaison committee or are representatives to that body. The pride flag was flown and was changed for the Glastonbury flag at the beginning of August, as you voted to fly the rainbow flag until the end of July. And a replacement EV charger unit has been ordered free of charge from Zero Carbon World and will be installed upon receipt.
Thank you very much. Councillor Serena Rowan-McDougall.
If it's any help, I know that Christine Try needs to complete the fair trade status forms. So I suggest that you inquire of her about those forms. I remember her telling me that she was completing them. I think that was 2 years ago. I think COVID intervened, but I know that she was the one who was doing it.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I've also completed those returns as well in the past. So
okay,
right.
Thank you. I will look.
Thank you. Any other councillors to speak to this? We move on to receive the police report. Thank you very much, PCSO.
Good evening. I've been asked to come by Sergeant Massey and read out a statement to you regarding solstice and events around the tour.
Thank you.
So I'll read that out to you, what he's prepared. The last year has seen a change in the road network as a result of the multi-agency work done by Somerset County Council and coordinated responses from other agencies, including police and NSL, the National Trust and councils. This has been coordinated very successfully by Joe Joseph, who's spoke before, and is a member of the community who was affected by previous year's solstices. He has very kindly hosted a number of multi-agency meetings and enabled join-up plans to be formed and proactive operation to be conducted around the solstice this year.
Nick, would you be happy to pick up the microphone? Because it's a little hard to hit.
I'm still recovering from COVID a few weeks ago. For the planning of any event, I will always say that we look at the success We look at what successes it needs to be communicated and expectations managed by Mr. Joseph, helped assisted with this in the local community and understood the limitations of the different agencies' powers and what they could bring. From a police point of view, this year's summer solstice was in large considered a big success, with the road network remaining passable all day and no significant ASB or criminal behaviour reported. Of course, there is always learning and changes to be made. These have already been identified and implemented and will bring further benefits to the community of Glastonbury when visitors come to the town to celebrate the different events. I see the Town Council being an ideal conduit to bring together agencies for the planning of different events. You're ideally placed to build on connections you already have when planning other events for the town. The extra input to Beltane this year by the council made it safer and far better planned and understood than before. Mr. Joseph, I would hope, could organise a slick handover to the council if agreed, and hopefully he is willing to attend the future meetings. And that's what Sergeant Maxey wanted me to read out to you, but I believe Connor's got a copy.
Thank you very much, Nick. And I believe that Sergeant Nancy has also requested that if councillors have questions, they submit them in writing.
To him directly.
Yeah, and then we submit them during the month, and then the police report will deal with the questions. That's great. Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you for being here. Thank you. So we now move on to receive county councillors' reports. Councillor Hart, I see you're here.
So following the levying up housing and communities' decision to support and move to single unitary council.
Oh, Councillor, would you be happy to speak at the end of the table there where there is a microphone, and that way the people listening in on YouTube, etc., will be able to hear you?
Do I need to press a button?
No. But you may wish to pick it up.
I'll start again.
Yeah.
So, following the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities' decision to support the move to single unitary council, vesting day for the new unitary council remains as 1st of April 2023. Local community networks. At the July full council, Somerset County Council, it was voted to endorse supporting fully funded local community networks as part of the transition to unitary. The geography of this, and Nick might know a bit more about this than me, so the geography of this, or the kind of makeup, we were hoping to kind of find out about last month, but I think the Lib Dems have pushed that back a bit, have they? Mm-hmm. And so we're hoping that more details will come out over the summer, and we'll find out about the kind of constitution, the responsibilities and the geographical makeup of the new local community networks. I don't know. So council tax consultation, I don't know if you're interested in that. Yes. So there's a consultation on council tax support for the new unitary Somerset Council, and that has been launched. It's the first major policy consultation for the new council, and proposes the lowest income households across Somerset will actually be able to get 100% council tax relief, which is a substantial increase. Somerset's 4 district councils at the moment offer differing levels depending on their different areas, but the maximum currently is 80 to 85%. Only in some parts of South Somerset is there 100%, so they're now proposing to bring that across the board, which I think will be good news to people. Yeah. These proposed changes will harmonise support for working age people on low incomes, basically. And I can give you some kind of links if people want further information to any of these things. And maybe shall I give them to Connor to put in the minutes?
That would be tremendous. Thank you very much. Yes.
Trading standards. Somerset and Devon's trading standards recently seized illegal tobacco, estimated to be worth more than £200,000 in raids in Devon and Somerset, and the seizure is one of the largest of its kind. Recent operations mean that this service has now seized illicit tobacco worth more than £310,000 across the service area in 2021 and 2022. World Breastfeeding Week. Somerset County Council's public health team are encouraging people to nominate public places that are positive towards breastfeeding as part of the World Breastfeeding Awareness Week. Wheelchair and community equipment. Somerset County Council and the NHS Somerset are this month launching a new community equipment and wheelchair service to help people live more independently. This previously ran at 2 separate services, and the new service will provide a range of equipment to help people live independently and offer loans to people for as long as they need them. The service will include delivery, fitting, servicing, collection and recycling. So I think that was really positive. Tackling violence against women and girls. Somerset County and North Somerset Council have jointly secured an additional £317,694 from the Home Office Safer Streets Fund to continue to make public spaces and streets safer for women and girls. This additional funding will allow councils to focus on antisocial behaviour concerns, particularly those that contribute towards fear of violence towards women and girls. These targeted resources are going to be specifically aimed at Taunton, Bridgewater, Weston-super-Mare and Yeovil in the first instance, as the crime figures in those areas in this kind of respect are the most significant. Ecological emergency. Somerset County Council voted to put additional focus into protecting Somerset's natural environment and biodiversity by declaring an ecological emergency. The council previously declared a climate emergency in 2019 and has since worked with all 4 districts and other partners to develop what is now known as Somerset's Climate Emergency Strategy towards a more resilient, climate-resistant Somerset. The ecological emergency work will complement existing climate emergency, natural environment actions with a renewed focus on land management, biodiversity and natural habitats. And finally, Somerset Business Climate Summit 2022 will take place in September at Queen's College, Taunton. And this summit will highlight best practice and raise awareness of opportunities and challenges as we shift towards a low carbon economy. Businesses are encouraged to examine their current business model and make pledges to reduce their carbon footprint moving forward.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Councillor? Councillor Henderson.
Just one observation. Thank you for your report. I just wondered whether it would be possible maybe to have a more Glastonbury-centric kind of report, anything that's sort of relevant to the town that we could...
If there was something more relevant, we would obviously highlight it, but that is a summary of what has happened this month.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I think it will I think as we move forward, as you can appreciate, there's kind of things are up in the air a bit moving towards April. And I think as we move forward and everything calms down, we'll be able to be a bit more focused on specific areas. But at the moment, they're all kind of heading towards one point, hopefully for a smooth transition.
Very good.
We'll see. Okay.
Thank you very, very much. Councillor Cottle.
Yep, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Susie, Councillor Hart. Very, very good speech telling everybody what's going on. You left out one thing, though, what you've just been appointed to. You can't remember? Yeah, you've been appointed to something. I spotted it on my phone today. It's one of the scrutiny boards. Yeah, you've got your. That's what you're down for. Okay, so you know. Right. Okay. Thanks. I was going to send something similar through, but I couldn't find Connor's email on my machine today. But we're going to sort that, aren't we?
Yeah.
And that will be done. So that will cover all of those mundane things, as we would say, or as Steve says, non-Glastonbury based things. But it's important that you all know, or you're all kept up to date. So thank you, Susie, for that. It's really good. What I would like to say on the Glastonbury side of things, for me, is that it's very good that that Liz is deputy leader of the county council, and she's only a couple of miles up the road, and she was the former district county councillor for Glastonbury. So we have an easy and good conversation with Liz at any time we need it. So that's an improvement. Also, what I'm moving forward myself, I've been put on to the Mendip AOMB, which is the Mendip Hills. Okay, so that I've been forward for that. So that'll be quite good for me. I'm also on one of the scrutinies as well, adult self-care, I think it's called. But so that's quite good. But what I'm doing, because I'm a little bit bored, and we don't seem to have enough going on, really, from the county council, is I decided that I would start a volunteer group as a county councillor, which I put out on my Facebook, and that's got nearly 100 people involved already. So I've got to work out how I'm going to get that to do. That's to cut back brambles and the such like, and maybe some weeding around the town when we get it all sorted out properly. And then something else which is quite interesting to Councillor Lockabundu here. I've been on to the county, as I said I would, about the footpath, and I found out some quite interesting things. I'm still waiting to hear back from the group on your particular footpath by your house, but I did discover that one of the other bits that I thought was a county footpath isn't, and nobody owns it. So that's something that's got to be sorted out. And somebody's been clearing it back though already. And this is part of Snaky Path, sort of the Mendip, the Windmill Hill area. So that's quite good. We've also had, because of I put in a complaint, we've had the team out and have been up at Jacob's Ladder. Now I haven't walked it recently. If there's anybody here who has, they're supposed to have gone up there, cleaned up any rubbish and cut back any rubbish that's there, and inform the person, the owner, okay, because it was getting out of hand up through there. So that should have been done, but I haven't walked and had a look yet. So that one's under control. And also I've decided, because I'm really a glutton for punishment, that I will meet the shopkeepers all one by one as part of the county council thing, and go and have conversations with them in their shops and make appointments with them to find out their grumbles, basically, and what they would like about pedestrianisation and all this sort of thing, all wrapped in. So I've started off this week already with one or two. I've got another couple lined up for the next few days, and we will carry on from there. So, and Steve, there was something you reminded me yesterday that I checked up on for you. I can't remember what it was.
Gully clearing.
Gully clearing and that, yeah. We've got that sort of, we're going to be looking into that. And maybe the town council will be looking into it as well. Very important thing needs doing. So if there's any questions or anything you want me to take back, I'm more than happy.
Councillor Smythe.
Yes, Nick. Thank you for that report. Wondered if we had any progress on double yellow lines on Torview Avenue.
Oh yes, you reminded me of something now.
Manor House.
You reminded me now. The road traffic regulation is going out now. You see that? It's caused a little bit of a flurry of people who aren't overly happy with having some of these things done, shall we say? But really, they're all road safety and things like that. So it's necessary. And I think there's more people in favour than more people against. And it was all decided by the town council before, if you understand what I mean.
clarify that? Are we talking about Torview Avenue, Hillhead Corner?
Yeah, I can check up on those for you.
And now we're talking about Manor House Road.
Yeah, that was another one. There's the health and the safety ones, yeah. All those, if you look at I think Hazel actually put something online. Are you online, Mike? No, it was online. And a couple of people were not very happy. But once I've spoken to them, they've got the idea and they see the reasoning for it. So hopefully that will go ahead. But we've got to wait and see. Right. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yes, so a week or so ago, I actually alerted Conrad. I don't know if it's been done or whether it's passing into your court, but walking up from the Bristol bus, the St Dunstan's, what we call the steps on the hill.
That's Jacob's
up to the top of Wimbledon. Has that been cleared? Because that was like this, and you were back.
Well, they were instructed. The team have been instructed 2 weeks ago, or thereabouts, to go and sort that out.
And it was really, it's the worst I've ever known it in 40 years.
Yeah, and they've been instructed because obviously the person who lives in the house that hasn't been doing the work, and so
Well, it's the whole lot of the steps, all the way from the Wells Road up to Leg of Mutton, and then on up to.
No, the wrong, different steps.
Those are
Different
not
steps.
the steps.
No, Snaky Path, that side.
They're not Snaky Lane.
No.
From St Dunstan School,
Where the children go.
where the Wells Road is.
I know.
Where you go up we call the steps.
Yes, I know that when you
go to the end of Hamlin Road, and then on up to Leg of Mutton Road, and then on up to Gunter Close.
We'll have a look.
They're really bad.
I'll check to see if they are adopted by the county council, because they have told me that the one that leads to Mollington Road isn't. So.
It's not Mollington Road.
No, that's what I'm saying. So I'll get them to check that one as well, because that one slipped my mind.
Because that's the one that the kids walk to and from school.
Go to school, yeah.
That's the St Dunstan School route.
And you were saying that was overgrown?
And it's the worst it's been in 40 years. You can hardly get through it for brambles.
And if they get through the brambles, then they've got that slanting fence. It goes right across at the bottom there that hasn't been fixed either.
I'll send that back to Mike.
So Nick, you've got Councillor Henderson and Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chair. Just to touch on the gullies again.
Yeah.
I mean, at a meeting last night, it became apparent that most councillors in the town have got some issues with that. So, we would like to see some work done on it, but also I think it would be nice even to get a report from the officer in charge just to say what their plan of action is, to say, right, we've got that on board. If somebody can censor it to Connor or whatever, just so we know that it's been logged and he knows what we're talking about. And with regard to the TROs, did I understand you right saying that's not happening anymore? Did you say they're changing the policy, the traffic regulation orders? Because we used to put those in once a year.
Yeah,
I think
we've got to do the same. We've got to keep
so still happening like that?
Yeah.
Because obviously we'd like to know when those have got to be in by, because Mike's obviously got some he wants to do in, and I know there's some in
I'm not
as well.
sure if Mike's is in already.
Well, might be. But I mean, but we need to know when the deadline is.
We've obviously
for those.
got a crossover at the moment because what Liz and Terry done. Terry might have a little bit of information on what was put in.
Sorry, say that again.
You might have a little bit of information on what CPOs put at road traffic. Yeah. In for Torview Avenue.
Well, anywhere in town. I mean,
there's
lots of applications put in
for Torview Avenue that I've seen.
Okay, I'll check with Liz before I go back.
Ones which I've seen.
Yeah, which you've seen.
But you should be privy to those anyway.
Councillors, do remember to stand when we're speaking at this table. Councillor Cook.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Nick. This gentleman in the audience with us from Carnival, who's very concerned about the hedging on Tor Leisure, of course, on the street road. From history, all I can remember is that the Tor Leisure is responsible for the hedge, not highways. So, but of course, this is going to get bandied back and forward forever, and which I think it already has. Is that right? Many times. So it's a case of really nailing down that responsibility for the dam hedge, which is it's out of order. You know, we had this last year.
Yeah, that's Mendip, not county.
I think. Well, they say it's all about who's operating the lease is responsible. So, you know, this is what I mean. It really needs nailing down who is actually responsible, because at the end of the day, we can't have people going and cutting it in March when birds are nesting, for instance. No. So we have to have a proper setup of who is responsible for hedge cutting, whether it's and they need to do it.
Yeah. Now the piece of hedge you're most concerned about, Rick, is.
Could we ask
Chris?
Yeah. Chris.
It's all from the drill all along to the entrance where the road goes down to Morrison, which is all along towards it.
I don't know what you mean. Okay.
All club and everything.
Okay.
We've had problems there before. The footpath is not wide enough for anybody to push around through. So there are the lorries going up and down, finger. And what you're on about gullies outside of the cottage to the drill hole. The gully there has got plants growing up through. The gully is breaking up.
Yeah. So's the one outside my house, so I'm aware. Okay.
Heavy lorries going along there. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. So, Steve, I'm conscious you have already spoken to this, but oh, I see. Yes, I might write a reply.
Go for it.
Quick answer. Chris, I don't think you were at last month's meeting, but those were all brought up at the meeting. The hedge and the gullies outside to leisure, and they are in the process of being dealt with.
Can I ask you to lead on that now?
Thanks, Steve.
Councillor Napper.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nick, I noticed that number 68 of the motion last session, it was to receive and consider motions from councillors. And this one with the council condemns a proposed £200,000 salary for the chief exec. Can you tell me, did you vote for that?
Actually, Terry, yes, I did. And so did the majority. In the end, the majority voted, right? If you understand, and I did explain.
One at a time.
So yes, councillors, please, we do need to follow standing orders. If you wish to speak, raise your hand. I will then announce councillors' names, then they stand and speak. Of course, there's one councillor who we've allowed not to stand due to health reasons, but that doesn't mean that any other councillors shouldn't stand. So please do keep order.
And Terry, I'll come back to you on this because, as I said at the last council meeting, the leader of Sedgemoor District Council, who is the longest serving Conservative councillor in the country, okay, he wanted to go to 230,000. Okay, so just remember, so it goes across party lines. If you want the right person for the job, you have to pay the money. And when you're looking at the responsibility that this person is going to take on, it's huge. Would you want a bit? Yeah, they're already going to be able to sleep at night, I would think. So I don't know where you're sort of coming from. And we're going to save money because he's taking on a job of 5 people.
Thank you. Councillor Napper, right to reply.
I'm not concerned about anybody else. What I'm concerned about is Glastonbury. And we put down a motion, which was accepted, that we should, or you, on our behalf, should reject that £200,000, which you didn't. So I am disappointed with that. But going on to another thing, I noticed that the sign coming in from Wells Road is not put back yet. And I wonder whether you can use your influence and hopefully get that sign put back, the one which you and I had words about many years ago.
Now, don't sit down, Mr. Napper, Councillor Napper, because I will reply to you on both. I don't recall what one council is a different council.
That was the motion that we're speaking to.
Okay, yeah, different councils, different things. But what I will say is about Heart Lake Bridge, I did keep on to you about it, and I'm still kind of, but actually it's not within the boundary of Glastonbury.
I did something for you, so you can.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I
never gave you.
Councillors, please, this is a place for debate around issues. If you wish to speak further and remain sitting, Councillor Napper, I suggest you do it in the pub with Nick afterwards.
I don't drink, I'm teetotal. Okay.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hart, did you wish to speak to that last item?
Yeah, can I just have a look? I don't know what that says, because I'm obviously not on the town council. So what does that say?
The motion.
Was it to reject the sum, a specific sum, or
Here's
was
the
it to
motion.
reject it in? See, I thought the proposal was actually higher than that, and everybody rejected that. It was brought down to no higher than 200.
Yeah.
That's what actually happened. So he did, I think he probably did the same proposal.
Thank you very much. So we're just, for the benefit of the public, and for viewers, county councillors were discussing councillor business. Of course, this is a service that Glastonbury Town Council is very happy to provide at no cost for the county council. But we now move on to District Council's report. Councillor Cottle, would you like to speak first to District Council report?
Oh dear. Yes and no. There's not a lot to report from the District Council from my behalf. Even the one that I had a planning meeting and I've done loads of ward work as you expect. And one with a tree branch, which is quite amazing, is actually sitting on somebody's shed that belongs, crazy. Not necessarily in my ward, but it's actually sitting, a big, huge branch is sat on somebody's shed, and they weren't the ones who complained. It was somebody else who phoned me up and said, can you come and have a look at this and get it sort of sorted? So yeah, there's been some very strange requests. Another one I've had, I think last week, which I haven't replied to yet, I want to find out something, is somebody's asking to be able to put a seat on the tour, but that wouldn't really come under the county council or town council. That'd be the National Trust. Okay. So there's a few bits going on like that, but yeah, nothing.
Thank you. Any other questions for Councillor Cottle? Councillor Cottle, I just got one other thing. Oh, sorry, Councillor Osborne.
Because I understand the enforcement officers that are supposed to come and sort of deal with things like illegal trading on the high street are still employees of the district. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I know I am.
Yeah.
That was rhetorical. I didn't want to bully that poor little policeman in any way. Now we're not allowed to give questions directly to the police, which is actually, I would like to have it recorded how shocked I am at that, because we have had a email conversation between a number of councillors saying how concerned they are about the state of the high street, and that has come from people from all parties. And obviously now the police, even if they attend, don't get questioned. But as a district councillor, you are kind of in charge of the enforcement officers. So I would really like to know why the enforcement officers are doing absolutely nothing to deal with illegal trading, fortune telling, vagrancy and everything else which is illegal under the Vagrancy Act of 1824.
We can ask, no problem. I can certainly ask them for you, but they don't work at weekends most of the time.
Well, neither do the police.
No. Oh, that's a bit naughty. But I'll certainly send back your thing, and I'll actually send you an email to tell you what, get the reply. Okay?
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Councillor Cottle? I have one more bit of overhanging foliage for you, which is opposite former Mayor Alan Gloak's house. The trees there are coming right down towards the road, and anything high going up there is getting knocked. And of course that carries on around the corner as a usual suspect going up above town, around the corner into the top there. So that needs cutting back, and I imagine it's the same extension of the foliage that's coming all the way down Jacob's Ladder and all the way along there.
Well, hopefully Jacob's Ladder's been sorted.
I hope so too.
The other one, that belongs to a private individual. I think the piece you're referring to, that they are supposed to cut it back. So maybe we could write a letter from here?
I think it should come from the district council.
Well, we can drive from the district. I don't mind the district.
Because the district can then enforce afterwards, can't it?
Because I've got a couple of issues along that road.
Yeah.
And that would be one. We can certainly, get a letter written, no problem.
Thank you. Councillor Cook?
Thank you. Councillor Cook, can I just ask you, you've got 100 volunteers.
Yes.
Right.
Not you. You're not on the list.
Yeah, no. But you've got all the tools? Is county providing all the tools?
No.
Equipment?
It'll be everybody to do it themselves.
So you've got to bring your own equipment?
Yeah.
Okay. And
So where's your argument? Where's it going to cost?
It's not an argument.
Don't have an argument, Rick, because that's what you do.
You know, I've been down this road of like putting a team together and then, oh, well, who's providing the tools? Oh, well, what if I break my fork? You know, all that kind of stuff.
Actually, there's been other people who volunteered to lend their own tools.
Excellent.
You know?
Okay.
Right?
Good luck. No, it's fantastic. It's good, but I'm not trying to pick holes in it.
Names are on there.
I'm wondering because I haven't got a lot of tools. So, you know, what I have got is a bit suspect anyway, and I've only got a little bit. So.
No, but you wouldn't have everybody at the same day, would you? The idea would be
No, of course not.
go at different times and do different jobs.
By the sound of
It's going to take a bit of coordinating.
additional work, you're going to need another 100.
But were you not surprised by the amount of people?
No, I'm not actually, because, you know, nothing is being done on the streets now. You know, it's pretty grim from what I remember it used to be, you know, just about 20 years ago. You know, everything was done. Hedges were done regularly, you know, weeding and all the rest of it. So I'm not surprised.
It's not just
everybody wants to
go through all of the councils on that. It goes through all the councils and private individuals, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah.
A lot of it is down to private individuals who haven't looked after their frontage.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to get there.
Yeah.
And
totally with it.
Ago, you're not. You didn't. Well, you weren't in Glastonbury years ago. People used to look out. Used to clean outside their houses all the time and keep it all up neat and tidy. And that somehow disappeared over the years, which is a shame. But we will get back there.
Thank you, councillors. So, councillors, I'm going to be quite strict from now on around the 3-minute rule and right to reply being requested but not always granted, because other councillors, some of whom have spoken tonight, have complained about the length of these meetings, and conversational interactions do contribute to that. So, Councillor Henderson, do you have a report for us?
Short and sweet. Chair. With regard to the High Street, Lewis, if you remember either last month or the month before, I had a report ready to read out with regard to the High Street, and Sergeant Lancy kind of headed me off at the pass because he stood up and said that that was all being taken care of, and he dealt with the drug abuse, the street trading, antisocial behaviour, pretty much everything that I had on the list. And I congratulate him for that. I think we just need to make sure that they're carrying on with that, because for a while, as Rick pointed out, things improved. And I would say it has improved this summer than what we've had in the past. There are certain days that are bad, but generally speaking, I'd say it's better. There's a few characters that are causing trouble, but I think they're less than they used to be. Nothing to report from Mendip other than one planning meeting, nothing that concerned Glastonbury at that meeting, all housing estates in the Frome and Midsummer Norton area. One thing I will just comment on, if you remember at last month's meeting, you mentioned the signage at a certain takeaway in the town that had applied for retrospective planning permission and then withdrawn their application at the last minute. So the signage is actually there illegally. So I had a reply from the officer in charge, which I will find. Here we go. Right, it just says, to confirm that the application was withdrawn from the planning board agenda as the recommendation was altered to be refusal. The recommendation had been for approval, although this council was against that. So it was, the recommendation was changed and therefore they withdrew their application. This is currently with my senior to sign off and is to be issued as a delegated decision due to the objections from yourself and the parish council. So they've actually taken notice of what the town council has said and they've changed their decision. So it says, once issued, this will be passed to our enforcement team to take necessary action. So we can assume that at some point that signage will be looked at by the enforcement team.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne.
I mean, I would concur that it did get better for a little while. but frankly, it has degenerated again. I live in the high street. I have to endure it night after night, the screaming and shouting and what is going on. It's not just during the day, which is horrible enough. I know lots of the shopkeepers. I know in the shop at the front of my building, they've lost staff because of the behaviour of people down there. I know John Ravenscroft is talking about leaving. I know Yin Yang, is it? They're going as well. You know, all the if you like, the better shops are going to shut. That's a reality of it. People are absolutely at the end of their ropes at the level of behaviour in the high street. It is unsustainable. And I repeat, I am shocked that the police are just not even here. I would respectfully request that we are given the email that we can actually contact them on, because, and I have been in touch with the police commissioner for the area. He is going to come eventually, keep saying he will, but something has got to be done. We get police apparently 3 days a week. I mean, if I had known that when we actually had banks in this town, I might have taken to a life of crime, because it's just insane that we're literally at the mercy of undesirable elements 4 days a week with absolutely no police protection whatsoever.
I would agree with that to a certain extent, and I think in the past we've found that when we do kick up a fuss, things improve. So I would suggest that through the town council, through yourselves, we've always been told that the more calls that are made to the police, the bigger the police presence in the town. And we always encourage people, when they bring this to the town council, to phone as much as possible. Because the more numbers that are logged, the more we will be looked after, as it were. I would say that there are certain traders in the town. I mean, I know the trader that you're talking about pretty well. He's a neighbour of mine. And I think one of the reasons they moved to Glastonbury and the reason they have the shops that they have is kind of because the place Glastonbury is. They're selling the sort of things that Glastonbury people like. Now, unfortunately, we're dealing with the underside of that same culture. People come to Glastonbury for that same reason, but they are of a darker ilk, if you like. So I think, you know, I sympathise with everybody in the high street, and I see it, you know, and I understand, but we've got the police there to do a job. But I've got to say that Glastonbury has that character that will bring a lot of good and a little bit of bad. And you've got to kind of enjoy the good.
Thank you. So Councillor Napper and then Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Your Worship. One of the things which are relayed to me in uncertain terms is that the churchyard, St John's Churchyard, is being used as a playground, and a lot of Glastonians do not like that the attitude of people that are in there. There's drinking in there, probably drug taking, I don't know. But I've seen bicycles in there, people riding around on bicycles, and I believe that there was even a motor car driven around there at one stage. Because the tire marks were now. Those are the churchyard should be a place of tranquility, but not for football matches. I mean, I've seen the football matches. We probably all have seen it, and I just wonder whether we can make representation to the vicar to ask him if that could be curtailed in some, because the elders of that church are elderly people. They're old codgers of 70-year-old, and I'm a 70-year-old, so I can say it. You can. You know, these people, 70, 80-year-old, they don't want to go out and stand up to these young lads. They'll probably get a load of cheek anyway. So I'm just asking if we could contact the vicar and ask him if the gates could be closed for some time. The gravestones are being used as tables. It's not good. And also, there is a problem which I'm hearing with one or two shops around which are selling alcohol. I think one is probably opposite here, the other one is opposite St John's. And I just wonder whether that could be curbed as well, because that will make a lot of difference in the town and the town's behaviour if we can control those two items. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Good points. Councillor Hart.
Yeah, I don't want to be difficult, but I just think
Please come to the
Well,
mic.
I think people can hear me. I don't need to come there. I don't want to be difficult, but I just think it's irresponsible and unacceptable for anyone sitting around this table to make excuses for that level of behaviour that's taking place. We all know what it is, and it's antisocial, and it's even beyond that. It's criminal. And to say, oh well, Glastonbury is okay, no, we don't encourage that behaviour to come to the town, not for any reason. And the police should be taking action against it. And the people in this town feel like that. And if you do not believe that, then you're mistaken.
Thank you. Right to reply, Councillor Henderson.
I never made any excuse. I didn't make any excuses for any of the antisocial behaviour in the town. I condemn it completely. I was just trying to explain the reason that element is in Glastonbury. But if you remember, I did say we need a bigger police presence, and the more we complain, the more we'll get that presence.
Excuse me, just 1 minute, gents. Glastonbury born and bred. I do not like to walk through Churchy Lane on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock and see 3 men lined up peeing against the church. It's a damn disgrace, an absolute disgrace, and I'm sorry I'm off.
Thank you. Councillor Manning.
With regards to the churchyard, there is an agreement with the police that basically that they will actually support the church, because the church have said they do not want to see alcohol, drug taking or any antisocial behaviour in there. So that should be being enforced by the police, because they have said that they will support them. But it's a question for the police as to why that is happening, because the church do not want that sort of behaviour. They are trying to be open, because equally, some of the nice weather we've had, I've seen lots of people having nice times relaxing in the churchyard, and they want that sort of thing to happen. They want to be a community place, but they do not want to see the antisocial behaviour in there, and they would condone that as well.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall.
Yes, so I'll bring my contribution, my district councillor contribution now then.
Oh, no, I thought you had your hand to speak to this.
Well, I did, and it's speaking to this, basically.
Well, there are other councillors who wish to speak to this, so I would
Well,
be
I'll
happy.
comment on this, because it's appropriate. It's in the dialogue. Okay, I won't do a district council report. I'll just say this.
Okay.
I did contact the senior licensing officer at Mendip about possibly changing the licensing laws here, and there would have to be a review of all the premises in the area, which would not be feasible, he says, and would be open to legal challenge. And he recommends just talking to the shops concerned, who we think may be selling to those causing the antisocial behaviour. If they're selling single cans here, then we just go and tell them that's not a good idea, please. It's causing some problems for us. I mean, that is the way ahead, is talking to the retailers. When it comes to the poor behaviour that is causing the problems, I think it's a bit irrelevant to bring in the Vagrancy Act. That was 1824, pre-Victorian times. Pre-Victorian times, it's no longer a criminal offence as from 1991. Now, to me, this is part of the problem. Well, if you're going to deal with it, look at the enforcing of it, it's fines that you issue. 100 quid fines is what you issue to people who seem to be offending. Sometimes, if they're of no fixed abode, that is completely pointless to issue a fine. And that's really the only solution you've got, is to issue a fine. And normally speaking, I understand the police just tip away the alcohol and, this is the PCSOs who are able to do that, who are the ones who are mainly on duty and dealing with these problems. They're only allowed to tip the alcohol away. And, they've agreed that sooner or later they're going to get another can. So it is a little bit ineffective. My own personal view is that we're dealing with the results of police cuts.
Thank you. Councillor Lokabandu.
Yeah, thank you. I was witnessing the email discussion we all had. My impression is we are pretty united that we don't want the antisocial behaviour in town. My understanding is our only real source of action is the police, unless we start getting into direct action. What we could do is lobby the police more effectively to do so. So I was thinking Nick is talking to the shopkeepers one by one. You've got a network of 100 volunteers, maybe not to talk to shopkeepers, but I'm sure people would volunteer to talk to the shopkeepers. If we make sure all the shopkeepers have the relevant phone numbers to call the police, that would maximise, the police's ear being bent.
Thank you. So I've got both Councillor Napa and Councillor Cotter wishing to speak, but you've already spoken to this. Is it something that is urgent to say? Because I'm going to try and keep us to the 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's quite relevant, quite quick. Do we want to do anything about it or not? I think we need to speak to the church and we need to speak to the police in a coordinated way in which that officer was saying earlier on. Having said that, I believe I'm telling tales outside of school, but there's police being brought into Glastonbury from outlying areas.
Thank you. So, Councillor Cotler, you wish to speak? Is this in addition to what?
No, I don't want to speak.
No, Councillor Cook, you've already spoken, but is it in addition to what you've said?
Yes, additional.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dougal, re-alcohol sales. You're right in that all the PCSOs can do is just chuck it away. Now, there is a whole procedure that they have to follow to get to that point. And if a guy's just sitting there with a bottle or something and not doing anything, you can't touch him. It's as simple as that. There's legislation against all of this in licensing. Particularly, the police tried all of this, and the council tried some time ago with the alcohol-free zones to stop Music 10, the co-op, who else in town? But then the supermarkets, and we had them all invited to Pub Watch to talk about it. Because we're saying quite clearly, you're selling alcohol to people who, at that time it was Carlsberg Special Brew, I think, was the thing we wanted taken off the shelves because it was just littered everywhere with people and empty cans. I mean, it was pretty bad. I'm not saying it's any better now, but the supermarkets are still selling it, and they will not engage. They've got the law backed up behind them. They can sell to whoever they want. Whatever they do with it is up to them. So, we're fighting a losing battle going down that road altogether, especially across the road and co-op. So there's no answer, unfortunately, other than just to tolerate it, but get the police more proactive with the people who are abusing it. So if you're a pub, you get the police on top of you. That's it. So that's where we need to be.
So, Councillor Mutch.
Just briefly, if there could be any definite conclusions from this, I would say reluctantly that CCTV has got to be used. And what I heard from the trader I was talking to at great lengths, which I spoke about in the email I circulated, was that he had his own CCTV, which he showed me, and it looked absolutely brilliant. You could see faces easily. And when he submitted his own recordings to the police, they said, well, it's not good enough. And that's got to be addressed. And I suppose that's got to be some conversation between the police and the council and the traders. Because I don't know what the answer to that is. It sounds odd. But all you ever hear is that CCTV doesn't work. The evidence is never there. I have no idea why. The amount of adverse behaviour in the churchyard, for example, hopefully could be addressed by that. The other thing is fines clearly are useless because people just don't pay them. And my understanding is that there are, over the course of a year, hundreds of thousands of fines which never get paid. And there is absolutely nothing that can be done about it. So I would think there has to be a conversation with the judiciary also to look at the tactics used to mete out penalties. If fines don't work, then what of community service orders? Or is that naive and impractical because you can't round these people up and do anything with them? There's a great deal of work to be done, just clearing litter off the moors, Terry, not the levels, the laws, as I'm told to say. More, I see it every day when I walk the dog, and there are specific spots where loads of litter turns up frequently to take away names that are famous, beer cans, of course, but with a consistency which the location of these, such a consistency that it says to me, you could put a camera there and within a 24-hour period you'd probably capture somebody. You could put a camera on there rather like the one on the town hall where the whole world can look at Magdalen Street any day. So you could effectively harness an army of millions and say, there's the registration of the guy that pulled up, took a can of a box of beer cans and slung them exactly where somebody does with alarming frequency by the lake on Dye House Lane. I know it sounds a bit like the grim future that I read about in Orwell back in the 60s. I don't know, unless you can capture people, and if they've got vehicles, I know I've strayed a little bit off the high street here, but I'm sure there's some swap over between the people that litter and those with the lowest moral standards that indulge in other forms. I think they're all the same people, to a degree anyway. And I think that maybe community service could be something, if it could be enforced, that would be good for them in the long term as well. Who knows? That's my threepenny worth anyway.
Thank you very much, Councillor Oakton.
Well, I think I can say the same thing as everybody else here on the table, that it is getting worse and it is now affecting the high street and it's affecting certainly the visitors that come here. And whilst I do understand that everybody has rights, well, so do the shop assistants have human rights too. The right not to be assaulted, the right not to be sworn at. And so human rights cuts both ways. As for the police, I actually say that probably Councillor Cottle will remember, I could paper the wall of my house with the amount of incident reports I have been given from the police for antisocial behaviour, arson, all the problems that go on outside the town as well. So although the high street is important, it's the whole of Glastonbury that's actually affected. And if we lose the shops, and make no mistake about it, they will not put up with this. They don't have to, and they won't. Make no mistake about it. They are on the move because they can have a much easier life elsewhere, and we need to understand that. How many people tonight have spoken about this? It's a serious problem, and we as a council do need to address it. And I think the first step will probably be bringing the police here to account, because there are laws, and the police are not enforcing them. The new law has changed. The Police Crime and Commissioning Act became law on the 28th of June this year. And Warwickshire Police and Surrey Police are already enforcing it. And there is no reason why Somerset Police can't do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm quite conscious that nearly every councillor has spoken to this. It's an issue that we need to address. I would like to ask your permission as a council that we convene a special meeting of this council with one agenda item, which is this issue, and that we have that as a debate where we can fully discuss and we can come up with some form of action plan of the things that we would like to see and a list of the people we'd like to speak to, and then perhaps that committee can summon people like the Police and Crime Commissioner, etc., maybe silver level on the police force as well, or gold, to come and speak to us, and any other MENDIP enforcement team, whoever. So, councillors, would you be happy for that meeting to be convened? I would suffice.
Aye.
Thank you. Councillor Napper.
Sorry,
I'll come up, thank you. So, Conor, I would like to ask you to liaise with us to find a date, with a suggestion of a date, and I'm pretty certain that all councillors should be invited to that meeting.
So ask that we have an email that we can get in touch with the police.
Yes, yes, we should have an email where we should send them questions, Conor, shouldn't we?
I will check, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillors, we have been going for quite a while. I think we should have 5-minute comfort break and reconvene at around about 9 o'clock.
Don't know. You have a white envelope. I haven't taken all of it. Should be a lot somewhere. Just my individual. Yes, it is.
I'm very...
It's going on. I'm not sure.
I'm not quite sure how we get to 9 o'clock and still be on item 7. Councillor McDougall, would you like to give your Mendip Council report, please?
Yes, I have given what I was going to say already.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, I'm going to combine item 20 with item 7, so I can just say very quickly, July the 16th, I opened the Somerset Food Trail at the Town Hall. July 28th, I launched the Goddess Conference at the Assembly Rooms. 3rd of August, I attended the Audit Committee in Mendip, and there weren't any particularly pertinent items on there except for audit around the town deal, which has been mentioned tonight. And finally, this weekend, I attended the Children's World Festival at Paddington Farm, which of course this council has helped to support, and it was very well attended and a very good event. Councillors, I would like to move on to receive...
Your Worship.
Oh, Councillor
It would be nice if you explained, I know it's probably late in that, what the 3 banners are for, because I'm not really aware of what they're for.
So they were used in tonight's vigil earlier on outside with Nagasaki. The symbol is called Pax Cultura, peace in culture, and it is Rurik. It's a Rurik peace banner. It's been used as a peace banner by United Nations, and it is particularly pertinent as it is a peace banner that came from Russia originally, and there's a kind of poignancy in that. Rurik himself, the artist, did a painting of Mary holding the banner.
Which is the lady behind you.
And so Glastonbury, this is Our Lady of Glastonbury holding the Rurik Peace Banner, and you'll see that the tour and everything is in the background. So it's a peace symbol, and we were using it tonight for the Nagasaki and Hiroshima ceremony. And I thought it would be a nice touch, as I was mentioning it before we started the meeting, as a silent minute, to have the banners here as well. So,
and wars all over the world. It would have been nice if maybe you could have we could have convened at maybe 6:45, so that you could have told us what it was all about.
Oh, I do apologise, Councillor.
No, don't apologise.
Thank you very much. We councillors, I think we were all invited to attend the Nagasaki ceremony, where we observed the silent minute and we lit the flame from the Hiroshima flame, etc. But now we must move on to receive the budget monitoring report. Councillors, this is tabled. The clerk, the responsible finance officer, has given us a very useful guide to the notes that you will see on the sides. Councillors, any comments to the budget monitoring report?
Where are the guidance notes?
They should be with
before just before the figures.
So separate sheets.
Okay, thank you.
Which I seem to have lost. Okay. I have a question, Conrad, around bank interest, which is the second item down, which seems to be for April to August rather low in relation to the expected amount of income that we were going to get from it. Do you have any understanding of why it's so low?
Wouldn't that be the annual budget? Is the annual interest, and this is just a month?
It's from April to August.
Yeah, but the budget is for the year, isn't it?
Yeah. But we're already halfway through the year.
Oh, I see what you mean. I got it. Sorry.
I don't have a concrete answer, Your Worship. I can only imagine that perhaps the budget was set and overestimated the amount. I will follow up with the responsible finance officer.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cottle.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just a quickie. The old Mayor's chain, has that been donated to the museum by any chance?
No, it's downstairs with the maces.
With the mace. Okay,
Yes, on
that's fine.
display.
As long as it's visible.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep, it's completely visible. Councillors, Connor, do we need to do anything other than note this?
No, Your Worship, it's only for noting.
Councillors, are you happy to note the expenditure budget monitoring report? I will suffice.
Aye.
Thank you. We now move on to receive the schedule of payments. Councillors, any queries as to any of the payments therein? It does continue on page 2. Whilst councillors are looking, I would hope that the new unitary authority would not charge council tax rates on other authorities such as Glastonbury Town Council, because the only way that we can raise the money to pay council tax is through charging council tax or earning it. And it seems to me that in a way the council tax payer is paying twice. They pay their council tax, they pay our precept, and part of our precept goes to pay council tax. If the new unitary authority decided not to charge other local authorities, such as parish councils, council tax, the council bill overall would go down considerably. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a small item. I see we're still paying a Zoom subscription. Do we still have Zoom meetings at all?
We haven't had a Zoom meeting for quite a while, no. However, that still is a monthly charge that goes out.
Councillor?
Could you just qualify when the contract needs to be renegotiated so we can cancel it?
I can certainly look into that, Councillor Smythe. It might even be a rolling monthly that we can just cancel if that's the wish of members for us then not to have a Zoom account should the need arise in the future. That's fine, but we can always sign up again. So if it's the general wish that it's looked into and cancelled because we haven't used it, then that would be fine.
Councillor White?
Might Microsoft Teams be an alternative?
It could be an alternative, potentially quite an expensive alternative. I use Microsoft Teams in my own parish council. However, that does allow functionality for storage and sharing of documents, which if this town council braces into the digital world of not needing or requiring quite so much paper, that could be a very good solution to how you have all having to manage email attachments, which is not the best way of keeping track of paperwork for meetings. So it could be an alternative, particularly if we make a move to use less paper.
Thank you. Councillors, do I have your permission to sign the schedule of payments off? Aye. Councillors, thank you. Whilst I do so, I will ask the clerk to speak to item 10.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members received a report noting the resolutions of those various delegated committees. I'll welcome any questions.
Councillors, any questions for the clerk? We now move on to item 11 to consider a recommendation from the Resilience Committee regarding the replacement Town Hall boiler. I'd like to ask the Town Clerk and or the Resilience Officer to speak to this, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I provided a tabled report for members which briefly went over, as briefly as I could, went over the sort of thought and decision-making process of the Resilience Committee last evening as to their recommendation, and their recommendation is at bullet point 4 on the report. If anyone has any particular questions, or myself or Melissa will be more than happy to answer them. Melissa, do you have anything you particularly wish to add?
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Serena Rennie-Dougal.
Yes, so I see that the recommendation is for the interim to have a gas-fired boiler until we can replace it with a renewable fuel boiler. Now, is that gas-fired boiler one that could be converted to hydrogen as was originally discussed, or is it just a standard gas-fired boiler which will be used for less than 5 years, maybe 2025, until we get a renewable one, which seems, I don't know, for me it would be like, isn't it better to go for what we really want rather than have something just for a few years that is actually not a renewable sustainable boiler? So I'm sort of questioning the recommendation, I have to say. Unless it's one that could be converted to hydrogen, in which case, yes, it will be a renewable fuel.
Thank you. Melissa or Connor, would you like to speak to that?
I think the recommendation of the committee was to install a gas-fired boiler until around 2025 or
3 years.
Yes. When the committee looked at the costs of either hiring, which I put in the report, hiring temporary heating, because if we were to go for an electric boiler, which is obviously because we purchase electricity through electricity is zero carbon, it's not feasible to have that done this calendar year, so we would need temporary heating. The cost of temporary heating, we would only be able to temporarily heat the town hall for about 14 weeks by the time we would actually end up paying for a brand new gas-fired boiler. And the committee and myself and Melissa didn't consider 14 weeks enough time to make the town hall ready for an electric boiler. So the boiler that is fitted as an interim measure, which is the recommendation of the Resilience Committee, could potentially be a gas-fired boiler that could be converted to hydrogen. However, the plan is to change it long before I imagine hydrogen will ever actually be a viable fuel. So as was raised in previous meetings by other members, that could potentially be a more expensive model with the potential of converting it. However, I don't actually feel in my discussions with heating engineers that there is much work to convert between natural gas and hydrogen. So it may not be much of a price difference between just a gas boiler that you couldn't convert and one that you then could convert. But the recommendation, no, is not necessarily to go for one that could be converted, because the idea is to, in my terminology last night, hoik it out before hydrogen's ever a viable fuel.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the chair of the committee to speak to this, if you don't mind.
Thank you. One of the issues that had come up was that the power supply wasn't sufficient for the electric boiler that's been recommended. So the town clerk talked to South West Power, so that's the three-phase system downstairs. And so they were saying, oh, we don't know yet if the grid is capable of doing it and all of that. So in the end, and that would be like 4 months to from when we put an order in, the work would take about a week and it would cost about 5,000. So when we looked at all of those things in balance again, we went away from an electric boiler right now until we can try and get sort of a power supply and that. So in the end, that was why we came back to that decision. But no, we agree. We'd rather have electric. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Smythe.
Worship. Just to add that we're going to review the situation in April, by which time the 14 or 17 weeks, which we calculated would amount to £7,000 if we had to have an emergency boiler. That would have been kind of relinquished. And the new gas boiler only costs £7,000. So we're not losing. We'll review it in April. If we're ready for it in April, we can change, but it's unlikely because of the technology that's coming through, and also the possibility of future grant aid for public buildings. I mean, Melissa's going to have this as an ongoing part of her research, and this is why it's only a temporary solution. The date of 2025 wasn't a fixed date; it was up to that, so it could happen sooner.
Thank you, Councillor Lochabandu.
Just a quick clarification. You're talking about an electric boiler. Is that, you mean a SOC pump, or is it a different thing?
We're talking about an electric boiler as opposed to a gas boiler, a boiler that would literally run on electric, a little bit more advanced in the old immersion systems that you might be familiar with, but they require three-phase, as the chair said, require three-phase electricity, and the timescale of getting that sorted would mean that the time when we actually need heat in the town hall would go past, and we wouldn't have any heating in the winter. So that's why the recommendation is for a new gas boiler. I would say that new gas boiler will be much more efficient than the ancient gas boiler that we did have, with its holes and quirks and moving around the building as it did. So it will be at least 40% more efficient, which will of course reduce our overall carbon footprint. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to add that this report is a result of a really lively and productive debate we had last night. It was, I would say, a good hour at least. Lots of ideas were put forward, and I think one of the reasons we're going to put in a temporary solution is to give Melissa some time to examine, because obviously we would all like air source, ground source, whatever. It doesn't look like at the moment there's that technology to suit a building of this size. So we're going to, or Melissa is, I say we, examine all the possibilities, get some precedents, see what other authorities are using, and then this is buying us a bit of time to get that put in place.
Melissa, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Would you like a microphone? Oh, no.
Say a similar thing, that the main thing is it's going to give us more time, because this was starting to feel like we were rushing into something that may not be the best solution in terms of running costs and everything, and because we want to consider how we can reduce heat demand alongside a new system. This will give us the time to really get the decision right, because it's the biggest decision you'll make for this building. So yeah. Okay.
So councillors, we have a recommendation. I wonder whether any councillor would be happy, looking at the bottom of page 2, to propose something in relation to the recommendation. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to recommend that we agree with the recommendation, bullet point 4, at the bottom of page 2, that this committee recommends that the replacement gas-fired boiler is installed on the existing pipework, etc., etc.
Is that a proposal, councillor?
That is a proposal. Yes.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Is there anyone wish to speak against the proposal? Can I have a show of hands of all those in favour, please?
I have that as a majority, Your Worship.
All those against? All those abstaining? 4 abstaining.
4 abstentions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Motion is carried. We now move on to the next item, which is to receive a verbal update from advisory committees, consider recommendations for decision. And there's a Frost Fair Advisory Committee held on the 20th of July. Who is speaking to this, please?
I can speak to it, Your Worship, if you'd like. I was in attendance at the meeting, chaired by Alderman Ian Tucker. The proposal from the advisory committee is to increase the cost of each pitch type by £10, and the new proposed rates are presented in the table on your papers. So that would be that for an inside pitch for a trader who is located within the BA6 or BA6 postcodes, £55. Outside for the same would be £45, and a suitcase pitch, £35 for those as well. An inside pitch for a trader based outside of Glastonbury or Street would be £80, and an outside pitch would be £70.
So I'm not sure councillors have these notes.
We don't. Don't have these, right?
Okay, well, Connor, would you be able to circulate the notes electronically for councillors? And do you need us to vote on this, or is it for information?
I would like full council to agree to the recommendation to increase.
Can you show it to us on your computer in any way?
I can try to, yes, absolutely.
Councillor Smythe.
A point of clarity, it's quite simply that each pitch will be increased by £10.
Yes.
So it's not complicated.
Councillors, do I hear a proposal?
I propose that we accept this recommendation.
I'll second it.
So Councillor Ronnie Dougal has seconded. Anyone wish to speak against the motion? Can I have a show of hands of all those in favour?
I have that as a majority, Your Worship.
Thank you. All those against? And all those abstaining? 3 abstentions. Thank you.
There is a recommendation, 2 recommendations, I apologise, from the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Advisory Committee. Would you like to speak on your last meeting, Your Worship, and I will get the recommendations up on the screen behind us.
Thank you very much. The Platinum Jubilee meeting reviewed the tremendous events that happened in the town for the Queen's Jubilee and the celebrations of the Buckton Centenary, which tied together. It's been the intent of the committee to follow the Buckingham Palace's recommendation of a year-long celebration, and we are going to continue to celebrate the Jubilee at Michaelmas, which of course is an important day for Glastonbury, the tour fair, granted of course by a monarch, Henry I. So as part of the celebrations at Michaelmas, we will have a person being Henry I reading the charter, the tour fair charter, in the marketplace. That will be followed by the planting of a holy thorn, hopefully from Kew Gardens, one of the limbs of the thorn that was vandalised in December 2010. And we will be planting that with ceremony in St Dunstan's house. It will be a great event. I'm hoping that Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff, etc., will be able to join us on the day for that planting. So we are indeed replanting that thorn, which of course, those of you who know their Glastonbury history will know that the original thorn planted for the Festival of Britain died within the year, and a second thorn was planted in the year that the Queen became the Queen. And this will be a fitting way to celebrate again the Platinum Jubilee of the Queen, 2022. So do you have the recommendations behind me?
I do, Your Worship, they are behind you. So the first recommendation is that the Advisory Committee recommends that £280 from the Platinum Jubilee budget is used to restage the Glastonbury Mummers Play on the 25th of September as part of the planned festivities for Michaelmas.
Councillors, anyone wish to speak to this, or would someone like to propose? Councillor Smiley?
Propose that we put £280 aside for the Mummers Play, and that the other recommendation is accepted also.
Do we know what the other recommendation? Let's do them one at a time, Councillor. So is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favour?
I have that as a majority, Your Worship.
All those against? And all those abstaining? Thank you. The second recommendation, 2 abstaining.
The second recommendation is that the committee recommends that a Glastonbury holy thorn tree is purchased to be planted in St Dunstan's garden if a specimen from Kew Gardens is not forthcoming.
Councillor, does anybody wish to propose that? Councillor Smythe?
I'd like to propose that recommendation is accepted. And we purchase a Glastonbury thorn to be planted in the St Dunstan's garden.
Should the one from Kew not be available. A seconder for that motion? Well, I'll take Councillor Cottle if I may. Thank you. Anyone wish to speak?
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because I seem to remember a holy thorn was planted just over there, but it died within the year because it wasn't watered. So I would like to ask that should any holy thorn be planted, please can you make sure that for its first year it's properly watered. We don't want any more dead holy thorns.
Do you mean the one that was by opposite side of the peace pole?
There was one that was planted over there.
Yeah, that was actually vandalised. Somebody broke it off.
Yeah, because it wasn't watered, so it died.
No, it was broken. Somebody broke it off.
Well, I saw it dead, I have to admit.
Councillor Smythe?
I have full assurance from Connor and his staff that this is going to be given extra special attention. Thank you.
Please, yes.
No, very good. We have a proposal and a seconder. Can all those in favour?
I might even have that as unanimous, Your Worship.
The power of Her Majesty prevails. Thank you. So we now move on to the Climate and Ecological Emergency Advisory Committee held on the 28th of July. I believe that the chair isn't here.
Yes, Councillor Don Francesco has provided her apologies and isn't here. I did catch up with Melissa, who clerks that advisory committee. She didn't feel that there were any recommendations that full council had to agree to.
Well, considering the time, I would like to move on to the next item, if that's possible, which is to consider proposals to decrease the environmental staff time and cost impacts of meeting summons, agendas and reports. Conor, I'm looking to you to speak to this.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've brought this back at the request of members from the June meeting, I believe. I sought some further clarification on the legal status of receiving agendas and summons digitally through the post, as the 1972 Act stipulated. All the details in the report. I'll welcome any questions.
Thank you. Councillors, does anyone wish to speak against this recommendation? Councillor Lockerband.
I'm very much in favour of reducing paper. All I'd ask is that we make our best efforts to choose the best software package to kind of deliver us the material. And I'm not sure that Microsoft Webmail, or whatever it's called, is the best. I personally find it very clunky and cumbersome to use.
Thank you. Councillor Smythe.
I understand that whilst council are all electric, so-called, with their agendas and papers, Conor has every confidence that it can be achieved smoothly. I'm sure he'll look into the method of delivery, and I also understand that any councillors who feel a little bit awkward will be given guidance and may even have the opportunity of collecting the agenda in a paper form prior to the meeting. And I thoroughly recommend that we move forward with this proposal, because it will save so much council staff time. Not only will it be sustainable, but it will save so much time.
Councillor, is that a proposal?
It is a proposal.
Is there a second to the proposal? Councillor Henderson.
Oh, sorry, Chair. Can I just ask that maybe a review is taken, maybe a couple of months in or a month in, just to make sure that all councillors are happy with the way things are going?
Councillor Smythe, are you happy to add the review to your proposal?
Happy to add that to my proposal.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Councillor Henderson? Anyone wish to speak against the proposal?
I'd like to raise a point of clarity, if I may.
Raise yourself,
Thank you.
Councillor.
Thank you. I'm very happy to have all of the things sent to me by email, but when we're chairing and we're sort of working here, it's actually much, much easier to have a paper copy we're going through. But certainly by sending the summons, I'm happy by email.
I would echo the fact that it is very useful to write down the names of the councillors who've had their hands up on the pieces of paper next to the items, as anyone looking at this will see. So I would concur that perhaps at least agenda or papers for the chair of any meeting would be a useful thing. But the motion still stands as a seconder. Anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Napper.
Thank you, Worship. Point of clarity again. I mean, I'll be voting for 2.1B because I want these papers sent to me or whatever. But I don't know how we are going to vote. Are we going to vote 2.1? Are we going to vote on the different?
That's not the recommendation that he's on about.
He's
on the Local Government Act.
Yes, sorry, Councillor. I'm not sure this is the recommendation that's being put forward. Councillor Henderson, you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, just to clarity for Councillor Napper, the item 2.1B and 2.1A are actually paragraphs from the Local Government Act. They're not actually the recommendations. Recommendations on page 3, bullet point 4.
Page 3.
Councillor Cook, whilst Councillor Napper's looking.
Well,
Yeah, so, well, while you're looking, just a quick one. I'm just wondering if hemp paper is being looked at all for this, because I've been researching that. I know a guy over in Frome who's got a hemp farm, etc. It's something that the council possibly might want to get involved in sometime in the near future, about looking for land where we can actually, about 5 acres, say, and actually start a hemp field. Not the THC field, but the actual building material and also paper field. It's a huge growing thing. You get 3 harvests a year. It's fantastic stuff. I'm on hemp seeds at the minute. And it's just good for you, I can say.
So I will ask the clerk to look into the benefits of the pros and cons of hemp paper. It may be useful if we are still producing sheets of paper for meetings that we convert to that. I agree, and I detect perhaps a future motion to the council, Councillor Cook, at some point around fields of hemp. So we still have a motion before us. I would now like to move to vote. All those in favour?
Hold on, I think you've got down here to have a written, to have a recorded vote.
Recorded vote is asked for.
Oh, could I just clarify, sorry, Your Worship, have you got a copy of, so the first recommendation is that all members consent to receive their papers via email. That doesn't exclude anyone from then getting a paper copy. So I was hoping that members would consent so that I can meet the statutory deadlines for you all receiving your papers a lot easier if it's via email. And then the following recommendations were for councillors who still wish to receive a paper copy, either to pick it up or to receive it still to their house, as they are entitled in law to do so, to indicate that wish so I know what I'm doing and what the clerk's office is doing in terms of how many bundles to put together and how many to deliver. And then the last one was just as a point for consideration. So if I could just check that the proposal on the table is only currently recommendation A.
I believe that's so. Councillor, is that true? Councillor, is that what you're seconding?
Yes.
So we move to vote, please. All those in favour?
I have that as a majority, Your Worship.
All those against? And all abstentions? 3 abstentions.
Totally cocked up on this. So as far as I'm concerned, I want no change. Finish.
You don't have to change.
You don't have to change. We're going to cover that now. So we now move to recommendation 4B, to record a vote of members who wish to pick up a paper bundle before the meeting for Glastonbury Information Centre. And anyone who wishes to do that would vote for this motion. I propose this motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor White. All those who wish to pick up a paper bundle of the agenda, etc., before a meeting at the Information Centre, please vote for the motion now. A recorded vote.
I have Councillor White, Councillor Osborne, Councillor Cook.
No, he wants C. Sorry.
Can I point of clarification? Is that if we ask for it?
If you vote for it,
Just
you will get papers prepared for you that will be picked up from the Information Centre by yourself.
Point of clarity.
Yes.
Can we ask for each individual meeting? Because some meetings are well.
I would personally rather we didn't get into that, because that just makes it quite complicated. It's easier if I know I have to print off 5 copies and they're available, and you either pick them up or I drop them off or you get it.
Okay, Connor, did you capture the names of the councillors who are voting for?
I did. I got councillors White, Osborne and Cook.
The rest of the councillors, I would advise you to abstain. All abstentions? Thank you. We move to the next item. A recorded vote of members who wish to receive a paper bundle before the meeting to their home address, Terry, to their home address. Indicate this by voting for. I propose a motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Henderson. All those who wish to receive the papers as we normally do at their home, please raise your hands now. Councillor Napper and Councillor Cook. Everyone else who... Oh, Councillor Henderson. So, councillors, I advise the rest of us to abstain. All the rest of us abstain. Thank you very much.
Worship?
Yes.
In
Councillor Cook vote for both?
You did, yes.
Yeah, well, I might move.
Fine.
I'm sure that Councillor Cook, do you prefer to pick them up or have them delivered to your home?
I might move. I mean, I don't know. If I move, then, probably.
So for the sake of the clerk's blood pressure, would you choose to receive them at home or picking them up?
It's a move house, I can deliver it to your new house.
Thing, isn't it?
Well, if you move house, you can notify the clerk.
If I move, yeah, and then I can get them sent. Yeah, we can get in, that's fine. So you can stop me off the other one.
Yes, there we are. Thank you very much, councillors.
Your Worship, can I just say support the postman? Thank you.
Support the postman, we do. So, council consider whether it may need to offer a scheme whereby councillors can receive suitable electric device for council business where needed. I imagine that we're thinking of perhaps a tablet or some such similar thing. This is when we have a councillor who may not be au fait with electronic computers because they may never have had one, or councillors who indeed can't afford a computer and therefore don't have one. But of course, now we're moving to electric agendas, etc. It might be useful for us to be able to have the facility to provide on loan, I imagine,
yes, Your
on
Worship.
loan a computer or tablet to such councillors. Any opinions on this?
I'll make an opinion. I think that's a very good idea, Your Worship, so I'm quite happy to propose that.
Is there a second? Councillor Osborne. Anyone wish to speak against this motion? Can I have a show of hands of all those in favour?
I think I have that as unanimous if Councillor Napper's finger is a...
Yeah, well, it's not unanimous, I think.
Councillor White, I do apologise. So it was a majority.
Councillor White, do you vote? He's abstaining. Thank you.
I apologise.
Yes.
Thank you. Through the clerk, when this is ready to go, would it be possible to have maybe a dummy meeting or something along those lines to see how, because I think if we were dropped in at the deep end to run a proper meeting with the new technology, it might
Yeah, it might go wrong.
So yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. Thank you very much.
We will see. Of course, there are some people who write in our YouTube comments that every meeting we have is a dummy meeting, but there we are. There's nothing we can do about that. We move on to consider reinstating benches to the high street that were removed during the pandemic. Connor, would you like to speak to this, as this isn't a proposal?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's been raised to me, I believe Councillor Ronnie Dougal asked the police either last meeting or the meeting previously whether they would object to benches being placed back on the high street where they were removed. This was just to ask members if that's something that would like to be done.
I'd like to oppose it. I would like to oppose it.
Thank you. Councillor Napper.
After what we've been speaking about this evening, I think it's a little bit too soon to put these benches back. And I think that we need to consider the behaviour in the town and in that actual place before we replace those benches. Thank you.
Thank you. So I've got Councillor Henderson, followed by Councillor Smythe.
Can I suggest that this is put to the committee that we talked about earlier on this evening? We were going to liaise with the police and talk about the meeting we were going to have specifically for the high street.
Quite right. Understanding orders, I move this consideration to the one agenda item meeting, which is discussing the whole subject of this. So it becomes a 2 agenda item meeting because it will have this as a second item. Connor.
Thank you.
I can't remember exactly the standing order I'm moving it to, but
21.
21. Thank you very much. Councillor, we've finished this section. We'll talk about it later. So we are moving to consider delegation to the clerk.
Point of clarity?
Yes.
Did you reinstate standing orders?
I didn't suspend them.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I used one.
Thank you.
To consider delegating to the clerk the citing of the citing of the remaining bike racks in Glastonbury Way benches in suitable locations. I'm looking for a swift completion of this item by the next councillor.
There you go.
I propose that we delegate the powers to the clerk.
Is there a seconder for that?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Anyone wish to speak against this? All those in favour? Thank you very much. I think that's unanimous. All those against? All those abstentions? One abstention.
One majority, thank you.
So we now receive reports from outside bodies. Fair Trade, Councillor McDougall has gone.
Before Councillor McDougall left, she briefly briefed me. All we really need to do to reaffirm our status is to call a meeting. She's provided me the names of people to invite, and I'm going to work with her to have that meeting called.
Thank you very much. I would like to attend if possible.
Lovely, thank you.
So, Town Deal, Councillor White.
Thank you, Your Honour. We had a Town Deal Board meeting on the 29th of July. Chair Lynn Sedgmore had two main announcements. The national staff for the Town Deal visited Glastonbury on the 12th of July and visited all project leads. Now, these are the people who actually give the money, not recommend somebody else to give the money. So apparently it was a very important day. Without disclosing their findings, the overall feedback was positive. They were impressed with the uniqueness of our projects and regard us as their golden child. Shimmering was the word they used. The second one was Unitary Council will likely announce its Town Deal Board representative in August. The process is in place and the person will have local knowledge and seniority. There will likely be a Town Deal Board Development Day, 2nd of November, with a lady called Kate Willard. The risk register was reviewed and accepted. The 11th project, which is the Ralph Richards initiative, is both a legacy...
Robert Richards.
Sorry?
Robert Richards.
Robert Richards, sorry. I did have Robert Richards in the first place, and then for some reason I changed it. Okay, Robert Richards is both a legacy and a way to link several other projects. The multi-user pathway, which is about 4 kilometres, 2.5 miles long, should enable people to move between Beckery and town without using a vehicle, so active travel, walking, cycling, etc. There's also open learning, which will happen with Strode College and Open University. So that sort of fits across some of the other things like Life Factory and the regenerative farm, all with learning things inside that. And then opportunities for innovative, sustainable work. So I presume that's going to be the sort of Bailey's end as well. Outputs and outcomes for this one, the Robert Richards initiative, are improvements on the original Environment Centre. It was noted that each building is different, so Life Factory, Bailey's, Enterprise, etc. Natural England, Wessex Water, Wildlife Trusts asked that Town Deal projects complement work already done, so forward thinking and don't sort of go off in opposite directions. We approved the business case study, so all 5 documents, and I believe it was supposed to go to MDC Cabinet yesterday.
That's right.
And then it should go to central government on the 18th of August. Yeah. They said funds should start to be released later this year. Now, they said autumn, which in their terminology was October to January. So I don't know quite exactly what they were thinking, but that was the sort of best information we had. The legacy body, so Mendip District Council helped with lawyers that specialise in community benefit societies. The criteria were that ownership by us was key, and the firm would be able to work with Glastonians, Avalonians, whatever. They didn't consider charity was a suitable vehicle. Once details were agreed, a representative will address the Town Deal Board, probably October time, and then the CBS is a way to generate additional funds as profitable in for for example, community energy or stuff like that. The chair reminded us of confidentiality as we move into the delivery phase, and the next meeting is the 2nd of September this year.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any questions for Councillor? Councillor Napper.
Yes, Your Worship. I went to the meeting last evening up at Mendip, where we spoke about this, it was good to hear it, but also about this golden thread coming through Glastonbury, which is lovely to hear. Having said that, I just think that we have to take more control, and we have to try and make it a golden thread rather than what we have, what we've been speaking about this evening. And just to reiterate, it's a golden thread which we were told. So anyway, like I say, we've got to build on this for our own sakes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Napper, could you tell us, are you allowed to tell us whether or not it was ratified by Mendip last night?
Yeah, yes, it was right. Well, different things were. Oh yeah, most definitely.
Thank you.
But we also spoke about the Froome edition as well.
Thank you. That always happens when someone mentions Froome in this chamber. Councillor Cook.
Yes, thank you. Is there any sort of concrete plan for Tour Leisure? I've heard so many different stories now that they're going to take down the building, build a new one, that's going to cost £2.5 million. Then they're going to do this. Now they're going to put an extension on. Now they're not doing the building. But what strikes me as very I can't say what I think, but there's something very odd about it in that there's no mention at all of any works to the fields. No drainage, no soil exchanging, nothing, no watering. So it's all concentrated on the building and no other facilities. So I'm just concerned that what's happened. Does anybody know what's happened? Because obviously the football pitch isn't going there now, so that's out. So that leaves us with 2 unused fields.
So, Councillor White, we have a member of the group here that's dealing with that. Councillor Henderson, would you like to speak to this?
Just a caveat there. I mean, Paul and I have been to several meetings, but I haven't been to a meeting of the sports cluster for a while. But as I understood it, as I said to Simon White earlier on, the sports cluster as it came together with all the sports clubs and Fusion was costed out to cost £6 million. The sports cluster was allocated 1.9. So you don't have to be a mathematical genius to realise that that project couldn't go forward in its intended form. Now, within a lot of meetings that I wasn't privy to, it was decided to concentrate the first phase on the sports club, which is the Fusion building. As I understand it, it's a partial rebuild. It's not a complete demolition and then starting from scratch. It's, as far as I know, going to have a new sort of social area, some gym area. There's going to be a multi-function room, I think, for different use and things like that. There's an upstairs with sort of treatment rooms and meeting rooms and a pavilion for the cricket. This is what I've gleaned from meetings I've been to. So that's what, as far as I'm aware, that's what's going to happen first. Then the idea is once that's in place, I mean, obviously the cricket club is still going to be there. The second phase will be to glean money from the ECB to help the cricket club. There's also the acrobatics, who are part of the sports cluster. They've got their own body, and it'll be done in phases. Now, with the football club, although that wasn't allowed to be built down there, as I understand it, they will still be part of the sports cluster, but on the Abbeymoor site. There's plans afoot with the town council involved, and I will be in touch with Simon and Tim to try and discuss with them what they want, but that is still an ongoing situation, albeit not on that Benedict Street site. So that's how I understand it.
Okay, thanks.
So, Councillor White, would you like to add anything more to that?
Do you want to put Will? Yeah.
Yes, and then we'll come back, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not in a position to answer specifically for the Tour Leisure, but when those business cases all come back from government, I've asked that we get a presentation on all of the different projects so we know exactly what's happening, because I know some of the things have changed over the months.
So that's great. Councillor Lokabandu, are you happy to let Councillor Manning in, because I think he's going to speak to what we've just been talking to. Is that okay?
If I can just add a few things. This is in the public domain because it came up at the open day for the sports hub at Tor Leisure. And that is that, as Councillor Hedison said, that some money was allocated for the sports cluster. It ended up at 1.9 million. Various ideas were put forward about what work needed to be done at Tor Leisure, and there were various schemes they had in mind. Basically, at one end it was sort of minor works, and at the other end it was sort of knocking it all down and rebuilding and everything. But with, as you know, the cost of building costs have shot up astronomically, and the cheapest quote they had was 1.6 million. And that's just talking about the building. So
is that one story?
It's one story, yeah. It's not even. It's improving the site, but it's you think, well, where's that money going, as people have said earlier. And you can appreciate that it does leave very little money for doing the fields. The original back of the fag packet idea was 2 million quid, 1 million quid for the building, 1 million quid on the fields, and that's gone out of the window. So it's basically the money is in the short term is being spent on the building, but yes, there may be other pockets of money and grant bodies who can offer other funding for other things.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. So, Councillor Lockman, you've been very patient. No? We are very short on time, but if you're very quick.
There was a presentation in Tor Leisure the other week by Morgan Swindell, who are the architects and everything involved, and they were looking for contractors to do work there, which was refurbishment of part of the building, and with the end where the gym that is there, they were talking about demolishing that and rebuilding.
Thank you very much. So, Councillors, I would like to, considering the time, move on. I know Councillor Oakland's been very patient to speak to the Glastonbury Information Centre.
I'll be very quick. The centre, Glastonbury Information Centre, continues to recover slowly from the aftermath of COVID, but footfall has decreased. It is now showing a small increase. Sales are also showing a slight improvement. The problem is the lack of signage, which is a problem, but this is currently being addressed we're having flags outside. At the moment they're just going to print so everybody can see where we are. It is sad and that the coaches are not able to park in the town car park anymore to drop off their tourists. It has had a detrimental effect, not only on the information centre, but also on the rest of the traders in Magdalen Street. And it's been pointed out to me that we do have visitors, but the fact is that the visitors from the coaches saw the information centre immediately and made for it straight away, and that was their first port of call, and that has been lost. The new manager has been struggling with her role, but is now being mentored by me, which has made things a little bit easier for her, and this will continue for the next 3 months, and I will try to support her in her role. As Salisbury was the prototype for the current information centre, Town Clerk and myself have undertaken to see how the impact of COVID and, of course, the poisoning problem that occurred in Salisbury has affected that successful information centre, and to see if we can learn anything from that experience, and then we'll report back to the council.
Thank you very much, Councillor Oden, and thank you for all of your efforts at the Information Centre. You're doing a fantastic job there. Any questions for Councillor Cook?
Can I just a couple of minutes? We had a terrific surgery on Saturday where we met Jack Cross, and so she came in, and we were just about an hour backwards and forwards with her, and it was absolutely superb, wasn't it? Yeah, it really was. I mean, these two eventually, it was a bit loggerheads, but in the end, yeah, great. And we really moved forward with it. And I did raise one thing with Jackie, though. The only thing I can see is that there could potentially be a problem with one of the clients that go in there in some kind of condition that might get aggressive. And with the new building, the plans, etc., I'm sure, and I flagged this up with Jackie, she's taken on board, with security policies, for clients, and also for, if we're going to do this atrium, seems to be one door into it. So something might have to be arranged there to secure that. And she's on board with it. And she said that's the only thing that they hadn't thought of.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
This report is for the Glastonbury Information Centre as it is now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Not for the future. I think we have had some correspondence. I'm not sure whether you've got your emails yet, which I'm going to take forward, but I will report back to the council when that happens.
Thank you very much. And of course, we will be holding a meeting to look at our town deal project. And Councillor Cook, please do bring up these issues. They're very important, very useful.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So we now move to consider taking on a coordination role across the National Trust, Police, Somerset County Council, NSL parking enforcement. That would be good. And Mendip District Council for the annual events at the tour. So this is what Joe Joseph spoke to us before about at the beginning. And I noticed that we still have Joel here from the National Trust, and Joe is here too. So councillors, I think this is a very interesting thing for us to consider. Is there anyone who wishes to start the discussion? Councillor Smythe.
I'm just a little bit bemused by what is meant by annual events. Obviously, there's the solstices and the equinox, and there's the 4 fire festivals that are often celebrated there. But there are other events also that can't always be anticipated, such as supermoons, such as national days of celebration. It would be difficult to kind of corral all these spontaneous events into the overseeing of this particular committee. So that's the only thing I'm concerned with initially. But otherwise, in principle, I would support this idea.
Thank you, Councillor Napper.
Thank you, Worship. Hopefully, it is to do with this. But I've had complaints that at the extravaganza, the Herbie's Field was not used when it probably could have been, and Bretonnew Road was chock-a-block, and down at Redlands, a lot of people couldn't get into their homes. So why on earth didn't we use Herbie's Field for the extravaganza?
That is a very good point, Councillor. I don't know the answer to that, and I think that we're going to have to actually be a little bit more proactive around how Herbie's Field is used and how the council facilitates that for the events in the town.
Also, I note that Clark's car park was being used as an official car parking. I nothing wrong with street. I've got to say that. But I don't know why, we transfer people to street rather than use Herbie's Field. There's some income to be had there, I would have thought.
Yes, I agree, Councillor. I think this is something that the council, the clerk, needs to consider why these events are not using Herbie's Field, and we need to be more proactive. That was why we purchased the land.
Am I right in saying that we can only use it 26 days a year?
28 days a year, and remember, some of those days are there for tour fair.
Why is that?
That is the law.
Really?
Yes.
But the tour
It's
fair...
called the 28-day rule.
Tour fair is only about 9 or 10 days.
Yeah. So it's the 28-day rule. But we really do need to be more proactive about this. I wonder whether this is a property and assets item, and that it should go on the next meeting of property and assets as an agenda item, and we should discuss why it's not being used and how we facilitate it being used proactively. Presumably, now that Robert Richards isn't around, whoever's doing the extravaganza didn't know we had Herbie's Field.
Thank you, Worship.
So, Councillor Henderson, then Councillor Cook.
Thank you. I think that is a separate issue, and I think we have already started to discuss which days we're going to use it anyway. We've started to fill out the 28 days. Well, with regard to what Mike said, I agree kind of thing that we need to sort of find out what this coordination group is going to be doing, and I think that would probably be part of its role, would be to find out what events we do need to get involved with. So I think it's going to be a kind of getting together, having a chat and seeing what we can do. I mean, I think it's a great idea that we do work with these guys. I think it's a great idea, and the council should be involved, obviously. So I would suggest is maybe just a point of getting a committee together with you guys, and then we can sort of thrash out what we actually need to be doing. Sound good?
A motion.
So wait a second, councillors wish to speak. Councillor Cook.
Just to bump up Terry's thing, there's also to a leisure field. Certainly there's the Benedict Street field, which can be used. Well, I don't understand why that wasn't.
Yes, noted, but it's a different issue.
Don't argue with him, it's not worth
No,
it. But it's part of Terry's thing about.
Yes.
We should put it on.
We're putting this on we're putting Terry's issue onto property and assets.
Yeah.
All these things should be raised there. We're now talking about the proposal in front of us, councillors, which is item 17. Councillor Lokabandu, are you speaking to item 17?
Yeah. So I came with Joe, I think it was last week. I met with Connor up in the offices to discuss this. And I agree with Mike that we won't know exactly what supermoons or eclipses or whatever might draw large crowds to the top of the tour. It's fairly predictable. It is the solstices, it is Beltane, it is Samhain. It's pretty predictable. And those are the events we want to address initially by just encouraging cooperation with the different agencies. And then with some learning built in, we're just going to go forwards, tweaking it as you go.
Thank you.
It's not meant to be a big thing. It's just meant to be coordinating people who want to be coordinated.
So, councillors, considering the time, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll happily propose it. Oh, I propose that
Councillor Dustin.
I propose we take on a coordination role across the National Trust, etc., and ask the town clerk to coordinate it.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yeah, I'll
Councillor
second it.
Manning. I'm afraid I beat you to it. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the motion? Can I have a show of hands, all those in favour of the motion?
Your worship.
So not only the Queen, but the National Trust seems to have complete support.
Hey.
So thank you very much, councillors, and thank you for being here. Thank you for raising it, Joe. Thank you for being here, Joel, etc. It's very nice to see you. You can wait to the bitter end if you wish. We are now to consider a request from Mendip Credit Union to use St Dunstan's House as their correspondence address. I would just like to mention again to councillors that 4 of us are unable to speak to this. So, Councillor White and then Councillor Lokabandu.
Thank you. I'd like to propose that we do allow Mendip Credit Union to use St Dunstan's House as their registered office correspondence address.
Thank you. I do believe that that there was a separate caveat to that request. Are you wishing to put that into your motion or no?
So, and that it should be for no cost.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Price. Councillor Lokabandu, do you wish to speak to this?
I just wanted to ask Connor if the town hall staff had any objections to the proposal.
Good point.
No, I can't imagine that any of the staff would have any objections. The information centre's open anyway. As Helen mentioned, it's a very low volume of posts, and it seems perfectly sensible. If it's somewhere they can come and pick it up, I don't see it being a burden on us in the slightest.
Thank you. Councillor Manning.
I just wanted to declare an interest in that I'm the director of the Community Development Trust, which is the registered office of the credit union at the moment.
So I am also a director of the Glastonbury Information Centre, so I need to declare a second interest in that. Councillor Oakden, I think you need to as well. Councillor Napper?
Your worship, I just wonder whether we grant them a grant and then take it back on a rent, because there will be a formal way of addressing the situation, rather than just a freebie. Like I say,
So
there could be some implications there.
thank you. That's a good point. Councillor Smythe, you wishing to speak to this? Yeah.
Thank you, Worship. Just like to say it's only being used as a postal address. There won't be anybody there. I think It'll only be used as a postal address. There won't be anybody there. I think a rent will be superfluous. I think we can be generous and offer them at no cost.
Like I say, I don't know whether there could be some problem with ongoing, but if we give them a grant and they give it back to us, I know it's a bit convoluted, but it does keep control on it.
Councillors, considering time, I am waiting for someone to use the standing order, move to vote. Thank you. All those in favour?
Oh, let's vote, aren't we?
Oh, I can't vote. Neither you can.
I can't vote.
I'm pretty sure that is a majority of those who can vote, Your Worship.
All those against?
Yeah.
All those abstaining?
We have to abstain, don't we?
We have to abstain because we have an interest.
Yeah.
Yes. There we are. Thank you. Connor, did the motion pass?
Well, I'm confused now, Your Worship.
So again, all those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank
Your
you.
Worship.
All those against?
It's 4.
And all abstaining either through interest or disinterest?
7, Your Worship, but that carries.
Thank you very much.
I'm not against a freebie per se, but I am against the way that it's built up.
So, councillors, we now have item 19 to consider a request from Glaston Manor Angling Association to support improved safety measures at the bridge on Putley Road and Cowbridge Road. Connor, would you speak to this, please?
Thank you. Yes, very briefly, Your Worship. I received a piece of correspondence from Glaston Manor Angling Association, who have the fishing rights on the River Brue, and this location is right on the very edge of our boundary. They've approached the County Council for improved signage and some safety measures, and the County Council have requested that the Town Council support it.
Do you mean financially support it?
No, as in support the measures being implemented, and then the County Council will put it in process once we support it.
Anybody wish to propose a motion?
Yeah, I propose that we accept that we do exactly what they wish.
Anyone wish to second that motion? The Councillor Smythe. Anyone wish to speak against the motion? All those in,
You even get a sign up on the
all those in favour?
I have that as a majority, Your Worship.
All those against? Councillor Cook, were you voting in favour?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. And that's unanimous, I believe.
What would that be, like a brown sign, Your Worship?
It may be. Mayor's announcements have been done. Communications and announcements. I'm sure that we've had a lot of correspondence we've already talked about. Conor, is there anything else?
The only other item of correspondence, Your Worship, has been received from Street Parish Council inviting all members to the opening of Street Skate Park on Monday the 15th of August at 3 p.m, and that's been received via the office at the request of Chair Laura Wolfers, Councillor Laura Wolfers.
Okay, Councillor Napper?
That is the same time as Nigel Willicombe Adams' funeral, I'm afraid.
Yes. Okay, so councillors do note either of those events. Conor, have you circulated that to us all?
I will, Your Worship. It has been circulated by Sarah to yourself and the Deputy Mayor, and also to Councillors Price and White. But I sought clarification as to it wasn't clear on the invite who was invited. I will circulate it after this meeting.
Councillors, news release. Council finishes meeting before 10:15.
Yes.
Councillors, actions arising from the meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are many. I've captured them all with my nice green pen and who the action's for. So to save time, I shan't go through them, but I promise you they'll all get done.
So we note the next meeting is on the 13th, unlucky for some, September. Councillors, I declare the meeting closed.
Well done. Thank you.
Very good.